seas part upon a foreign shore, when the good ship's just about to start for old New York once more. With tear-dimmed eye, they say goodbye, their friends without a doubt. When the man on the pier shouts, "Let them clear," as the ship strikes out. With my regards to Broadway, remember me to Herald Square. Tell all the gang at 42nd Street that I will soon be there. Whisper of how I'm yearning to mingle with the old-time throng. Give my regards to old Broadway and say that I'll be there ere long.
Who realized that George M. Cohan did so much like sprechen? He's not actually singing. He's like, I'll do this and give my regards to Broadway. I'll have 4.5 pounds of fish to go.
You know what it sounds like? It sounds like Jimmy Stewart.
Yeah, he's got a little bit of that too. Give my regards to Broadway. But no, that was actually the legendary, the guy who wrote the song. That was George M. Cohan. The only reason I can play it is because it's, I'm guessing, in public domain, as is my dandruff. That my darling and adorable wife Joyce just brushed off my coat because this is the, not only, the 898th episode of the Dave's Gone By Facebookio Podcastio Programmio of the Stream that we do every Saturday morning from 9 until noonish or thereabouts right here on this Facebook page. This is not only that. This is not only the show that I, Dave Lefkowitz, and my wonderful wife Joyce have been doing since October of 2002. Thank you. First on the radio, and then also on, what do you call it, digital, oh my God, I can't even think of the word.
Just on a vlog?
Well, yeah, on the computer, like audio show. Podcasting, thank you very much. Just audio podcasting. We were on college radio, and now for the past few years, we've been doing this Facebook video show called Dave's Gone By. Not only that,
How long do you think? Like 5 years? How long have you been videoing?
I think since 19. Yeah, it's 4 or 5 years now.
Wow.
More than 100 episodes have been actually digital, or, video digital, as opposed to just audio. But it's more than that. The thing is, today, June 10th, 2023, is just the day before the 76th Annual Tony Awards happen for all of Broadway, all the Broadway shows. They line up, they try and get these nominations, and they try to get awarded on Sunday night, Tony night. This is the day before the Tonys, and so, as we have done many, many, many times before, we're kind of setting aside this whole show for a Tony special, and this is, if you can believe it, our 18th, and I call it annual. It's almost that. We did some kind of show during the pandemic, but I don't know.
I think you always did some sort of. I don't think you ever did not acknowledge the Tonys. I think they were always acknowledged.
Yeah. I mean, even in the first year of the pandemic, we probably had enough to do because the pandemic happened in March, and there had been so much theater before then.
Yeah, I think you always
we did something.
You know what you could do? You could look in your search your archives for Tony shows.
Simple stuff. Just go to davesgoneby.com.
I don't have my phone. I can do it.
Oh, yeah, no, but she's right. davesgoneby.com. You can go right to the archives. We may have missed one in probably 2021, just because there hadn't been any theater for a year, or just about anything opening. So we might have skipped that year in terms of a Broadway special. But other than that, here on Dave's Gone By, we've done our Total Theater Broadway show.
It's like National Scone Day or something.
Is it really?
There's scones in the Google thing, so I don't know why.
Oh, I don't know either.
Maybe when we go to get food, we'll see it's Scone Day.
Oh, no, it's Saturday. It's not Scone Day.
Why did they put that up?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I haven't Googled much this morning. I did Wordle, and I did badly at it. So
I think it's Scone Day. We're going to say that.
Not in a good mood. So I made it. I got to the few Wordle. Got it in 6. But I purposely picked the start word instead of something that they all recommend, like adieu or slate. I went with prize, because we're talking about
Yeah,
prizes.
I like that better too.
The Tony Awards happening tomorrow. So invariably, most of the years, and they've become marathon events, especially back when I was doing them in Colorado. They go on for like 6 or 7 hours of like 20 critics weighing in on the theater of the year and the nominees and the categories and say, well, in this category, these are all the people nominated. Here's why this one will win. This was my favorite, and this was wonderful, and this was left out. And it's great stuff, and I love it. And I was tempted to do it again this year. But because Joyce and I moved in August away from New York and to Maryland, and since that time, I've been back to New York literally only for 2 days and caught 2 shows
So it
of the
looks
season.
like
Yeah.
you've done one annual Tony show in 2012. Dave's gone by if your 8th annual Tony show was 2012.
Well, then 18th would be 22. So we missed 1 year probably because of the
but
pandemic.
you've been doing, I mean, that's like...
Yeah. So I haven't seen, literally, I saw, I think, 2 of the Broadway shows that opened this entire season. I'm confessing this. I don't feel good about it. It's just I haven't been back to New York.
Some of your guests are still on this show, too.
Yes, of course. Yeah, this is the exciting thing. We've got a couple of critics coming back for this episode of
That's amazing.
the show. Yes, it is. It really is.
But Mom told me that, or you told me that they're going to have, they're not going to have any, because of the writer's strike, they're not going to have any,
That's right.
Explain that.
Yeah, all right. So this is important because they are going through the Tonys tomorrow. There was some Sturm und Drang about this about a month ago because the Writers Guild of America, WGA, has been striking because it's about time that somebody worked out a deal, worked out something where they, excuse me, where they are compensated.
Oh, it's meaningful to you, honey.
I wish it were meaningful to me. I wish I were writing for television and being on a strike line right now.
I'll make you tea.
That'd be great. Thank you. No, but I wish it was somehow affecting me that writers for TV, and I guess radio too, were on strike now, saying, hey, look, it's one thing to pay us really, really well for a show that goes on NBC or so. It's quite another if it's on Voodoo or Hulu or Tutu or Poo-Poo, and I sound like Jackie Mason. But what are the streaming rights? What do I get when it appears on YouTube a million times? Yeah. And they've never really figured out a logical compensation for that.
Are they settling or are they still?
No, they're in it. They've been in it for a month. And yeah. So there was this thing of the Tonys not happening because the Tonys is, at this point, a TV show. More than just, an award ceremony.
Well, it has writing.
Well,
and
yeah.
it is streamed, so
and
those
it's not only streamed, it's on CBS.
Yeah, but also, but then it's probably,
on Paramount.
Yeah,
yeah.
so like, it has all the elements of the debate.
So there was this, and at first the Tony said, okay, we might postpone, or do it in the summer when hopefully everything works its way out. But there were still negotiations going on because 20-something years ago, or more, they did a Tony show during a strike.
Oh, really?
And they got a waiver from the union because the union said, well, this is Broadway actors. It's Broadway this. It's not. There was no streaming back then. We're fine with TV networks and film and so forth. You guys really don't have much to do with it, so we'll give you a special.
The Broadway writers are not out, are they?
Well, the Broadway writers are out only if they also write, as many of them do, for TV and film.
But are they a separate union?
Well, Broadway's equity. Broadway's for actors or stagehands, But you know how unions ought to work, that they help each other. So the only people who are really affected at this point, because they worked out a deal, not a waiver, but they worked out another deal where the union said, okay, you can do the Tonys, but you can't have WJ writers, or you shouldn't have writers of any kind, writing scripts. You shouldn't have pre-written things like banter.
But you can say
or
like
historical.
the candidates of the nominees of the award are blah blah blah.
You have an orderly procession of the winners and losers.
Okay.
No, not losers. The nominees, call them out.
They are losers. I mean, you're winning. Accept the title. Like, it doesn't mean you're bad. It just means some ding dong didn't vote for you.
Oh, yes.
Weirdo.
And they can come up and the actors
They
themselves
can say stuff,
could write their speeches or give improv if they want to write something down. They only ask that people who are literally in the WGA writers not
Oh, right.
not give a speech or not participate.
If I won a Tony, I would have just like Bob Dylan, the paper placards, and be like, "Thank you very much."
That's writing.
Oh, that's true.
And that's more written than just being.
No.
Yeah, now you can't. It gets sticky, but they've worked out a way. Plus, if you're watching the show tomorrow, it'll
What
be
about
on CBS.
performances? Are they going
Performances are there.
They're
Performances.
pre-written?
Well, these are from Broadway shows,
Yeah.
so they're musical numbers.
Oh.
So again, they're going to do them. But as I mentioned to you, normally over the past bunch of years,
Yeah.
one of the highlights of the Tonys is the funny, clever, big opening number. So the opposite of the Oscars, where they're just stupid and lavish, they're really clever
in it,
Broadway
right?
people.
Everybody.
They open the show in a big way. They nod to all the shows, and there's also it's jokey, it's fun. And Neil Patrick Harris used to rock the house and open.
Yeah. Who's the host?
I don't remember. I honestly don't know who the host is tomorrow.
Look it up
Please,
for you.
please look. But your nemesis, I don't know why he's your nemesis, but Lin-Manuel Miranda was called upon to write, there you go, the opening number, or help write the opening number for This Is Tony Says, and he being a WGA person, because I think he worked on Moana, he's got TV and movie credits now.
It's Ariana DeBose.
Oh, okay, Broadway actress
I don't
Ariana
know
DeBose
who she
is hosting. Probably just saying, hi, welcome to the Tonys. I'm Ariana DeBose. We're thrilled to be here. And our first category is, or please welcome so-and-so. Clap, clap, clap. Okay, hi. Our first category is, dude. And the winner is, dude. They come up, make a speech.
She's in Crappleton.
Oh, she was, okay.
Pufflington.
Is she doing her?
Castleton.
Should I say Pufflington Pencils? Because we've been watching a show called Upstart Crow. It's actually brilliant on BritBox. But so she's doing it solo. It's not paired.
I don't
She's
see
the only
anybody
host.
else, yeah.
So Ariana DeBose will be hosting the. Whenever I say that name, I just can't help but think of Mrs. DuBose from To Kill a Mockingbird, which is the absolute opposite.
I think of DuBose, the speakers, DuBois or something.
Oh, those are Bosey. Yeah,
Bosey,
B-O-S-E.
yeah.
But yeah, close enough. Close enough.
Thank you. Insult your wife.
Huh? What?
Insult your wife.
It's part of DuBose. You're right. Whatever. Anyway, okay. Where the heck was I? So.
I'm looking to see anyone else who's hosting the Tonys in 2023.
According to the Washington Post, who's hosting? Ariana DeBose, an Oscar winner for West Side Story, who performed in the cast of Hamilton, is tapped to host the Tonys for the second straight year. Her well-received debut over.
Yeah, we had trouble watching last year because I wasn't paying for like Paramount or whatever. And remember, tomorrow you can, at 6:30 p.m., they're having a pre-show on something called Pluto Network, which I know you've never heard of. I've never heard of. You can actually get it free, apparently. It's no big deal to log in and get it free. Pluto Network. But that's just an hour and a half.
The Tony Awards are airing at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, Sunday, June 11th on CBS. If you have a Paramount Plus premium subscription, you can also see the show there. For other subscribers, the show will be available on demand the next day.
Oh, cool. So for subscribers, yeah. But then from 8 until 11, if you have a regular TV, if you've got cable TV, if you've got rabbit ears, you can watch, as we have for decades, CBS TV will show the Tonys for 3 hours. If you don't have cable anymore, a lot of people don't, or you're just on a device, you have to spring for Paramount Plus, which is CBS's own, streaming service, as they were doing last year. So there you go. So that's how you can watch the 76th Annual Tonys, which will be going forward tomorrow night, Sunday night, June 11th.
It's tomorrow the 75th, yeah.
Or 76, am I wrong? What year of Tonys will it be? It will be the 76th Annual Tony Awards.
It brings you up to this with the Paramount. Click in.
Oh, well, there you go. So I don't know if our Samsung service will allow us to watch CBS live. I doubt it. It'd be great. I'd be giving it a look. I doubt if I went to our local bar and grill here, and then, our sports bar. My guess is every year the Tonys it's not my guess, every year the Tonys get killed in the ratings because the NBA playoffs are happening, or the championships are happening this time of year. So they kind of like, any male with any testosterone is actually watching the NBA playoffs, and then they might flip to the Tonys if their wife is with them. So it's always been a thorn in the side of the Tony Awards.
I think it's CBS News on Samsung.
Yeah. Oh well. I'll read about it in the papers. See, that's the thing. I feel this year, and I'm confessing this, I feel disconnected on some, not completely, but disconnected from Broadway and the theater world in a way that I haven't been for 30-something years.
Oh, that's not true. You've been in Colorado.
In Colorado, I was still taping the Tony Awards. Our little video cassette recorder, I think. And I was flying back to New York 2 or 3 times a year for a week.
I forgot.
And I would see, if there were 40 Broadway shows opening, I would see about 15 to 20 of them.
Wow.
So I still felt very connected. And for a couple of those years, I was still writing for Stage Buddy about the theater.
Yes, I recall that.
So I was connected. I still had the pulse of things. This is the first year when I'm kind of like, I stepped away, on some level intentionally. The 2 shows that I did see when I went back to New York, because we had to make a rush trip back to New York for a day or two, and so I booked shows and booked 3 things to see. And I saw the revival of 1776, kind of a semi-classic musical that was done in a very woke way. It was an all-female cast playing all these, legends from American history. And it was very, very kind of talked down to the audience, like, let's hammer home our points about just how racist and awful this country is. And it's like, it's in there. You don't have to underline it and highlight and put stamps on it. We get it. It was in Peter Stone's text. We know. So I sat there kind of half enjoying it, half annoyed. There was a show called Cost.
That's your general life.
That's your
general day.
No, I'm like usually 80% annoyed, 20% enjoying my life. And then Cost of Living, which is, I think, either a Pulitzer winner or Pulitzer nominee by Martina Mayock. Just too many coincidences in this play about
Cost of living.
Cost of living. It's about this African-American caregiver for a guy who's essentially not quite semi-paralyzed, or I've forgotten whether it's cerebral palsy, who's got something bad. She takes care of him. She's not sure if he's into her or she's into him in a certain way. And then there's other, and I was just like, I'm sorry, I don't buy it. I just didn't.
You couldn't get connected.
I wasn't on board.
You didn't feel connected to the plot.
Yeah, there was some good acting in it and stuff like. Oh, there was another woman who was paralyzed, and her caregiver, it was well done. I was just like, meh. And I was supposed to see The Piano Lesson, a revival of August Wilson's wonderful play. And last minute, someone in the cast got COVID. They canceled performances. And I was like, okay, this trip is not meant to be.
Going back and seeing Broadway stuff?
Well, I was thinking, once school ended a couple of weeks ago.
We have to go in July.
Yeah.
For my friend's thing.
Right. So, but the thing is,
you could book plays then.
That will.
Stuff going on in July. Yeah.
But that will already be post this season. I'll probably see 1 or 2 things for.
But then you'll start. That's good. You get a jump on the next season.
Right. But for this season, because I haven't been back to New York since October, and the things I saw in October were only 2 things, and they were all both, like, meh.
They didn't rock your world.
Yeah. And everybody's telling me I missed one of the best seasons in years. Well, it would be because there was pandemic, but that this was a really, really good season, and so I'm like, I know, and if I'd been part of it, I probably would have been like, but away from it.
FOMO. Fear of missing out.
I do have that, of course, but not as big as I've had in other years.
Wow.
When I'd be in Colorado and I'd see a bunch of shows, but I'd miss, that one.
But next you'll start again, honey.
Oh, yeah. But this particular year, I was feeling like, you know what? I've been away from it. I was swamped in the fall with teaching and still pretty busy in the spring with teaching. I've got other stuff thinking about and working about doing the show and stuff. So you know what? I'm like, let me just do a regular Dave's Gone By show today, this Saturday. Regular meaning we have a guest who's connected to theater anyway.
Yeah.
I was very excited about that. I'm very excited about that. Daniel Wise, who is a writer and director and a producer kind of too.
Goes excited.
If you remember, I think it's more than a decade ago now, we had a guest on, Gary Morris, who was a country singer, and he was appearing in an early version. Yeah.
It's coming back.
Gary Morris, very nice guy. He was starring as Rabbi Shlomo Carlebach in a musical. And why they would get a Goyish, a country singer, I don't. But anyway, they did, right? To play Shlomo
Carlebach. He
Carlebach.
had a beautiful voice.
He did.
Did he play guitar? Maybe he played.
Country guy.
You need to have someone who plays the guitar.
Yeah, and so I go, okay, great. Jewish show. We'll have Rabbi Sol interview him, and see if it. Meanwhile, Soul Doctor, against a lot of odds, particularly at being a niche audience and Broadway not being 1950s anymore, made the rounds and started developing and changing and growing and whatever, until finally it actually made it off Broadway. And again, the niche audience found it, and then other people found it very specifically because Rabbi Carlebach in real life had a friendship with the legendary Nina Simone. And that core of the musical kind of took off in its own way. And suddenly, it's obviously more than doubled the audience for the show. And then just people's interest in somehow the nugget of their relation was more interesting than a lot of other stuff in the piece.
What was the nugget? Was the nugget that they were just good friends and they had a musical camaraderie, or what was the
musical camaraderie? There were outsiders in a certain way, because Rabbi Shlomo is a rabbi, and suddenly he's playing, with folk people. And Nina Simone, she also had mental problems. She had marriage problems. She was just.
So maybe she confided in him as a religious person too.
Yeah, I think I didn't see the play. I haven't seen Soul Doctor.
Because that's what a lot of people do. They find religious people. They look at them as somehow otherly in a good way, like they have some kind of power, like religious power. Yeah.
And she probably saw in him a certain kind of, even though it's not
maybe stability.
There was something about him. He had even if it was fake, a saintliness.
A calming presence.
Yes, absolutely. Everybody loved it.
Yeah, but people need that. If you're going through mental turmoil, you need some calm in the storm, right?
So, and then also, he experienced anti-Semitism. She experienced racism. Yeah. So something between them clicked. And something between them in the piece clicked.
Oh, and the actors too were good.
Yeah. So it went off Broadway. It played on Broadway for a couple of months. And then it went back to, as a lot of Broadway shows do now, it went from Broadway. They knew there was still audience who hadn't gotten to see it, so they brought it back off Broadway to play for a bit longer. And now what they've done is, they're still playing it in different places, and they've taken Soul Doctor and put it in a big theater with a big audience and filmed it with 70 cameras and beautiful lighting and all that. So they're saying they'd make a movie. It's not a movie. It's a film performance.
Recorded performance.
Right. But not like you would just go see at the New York Public Library before with two cameras just documenting the thing.
Remember the Peter Pan where they went bad? It went bad, that live Peter Pan
right.
one, yeah.
Yeah, so...
but that had a lot of cameras.
Yeah, no, what they're doing on NBC and even what they've kind of stopped doing it when they were doing those
I can see
shows.
Why.
No, this was a serious piece of wow, we want you to have the experience as if you were in.
That's amazing.
2000 Seat Auditorium, watching Soul Doctor, dancing around with Shlomo Carlebach songs.
Does he get any money? Like you're talking about?
In heaven, maybe.
No, but I mean, this is what I always wonder. You're talking about writers who don't get paid for repeating stuff. I mean, I get copyright. I mean, you get royalties and stuff, which are crap, right? But if you write something about somebody, it's unauthorized, they don't get any. Oh,
I think Daniel Wise is actually going to talk about that a little bit. That's going to be really interesting.
I'm very curious. Yeah. I mean, I get nothing from the stuff I write. Even the books, you get the royalties are pretty low, and you know that you're not making the big bucks, But I wonder if somebody writes let's say something about Barbara Streisand or I don't know, anybody
Well, you can write an unauthorized biography of anybody. They can sue you if you like.
And make a musical of it, and they don't get any benefit.
But you can't just take someone's music and put it in a show.
No, but not their music. But you can. Let's say you write a musical about a famous person.
You can.
And there's they don't get anything from it.
Nope. No. But once you start singing a song they've written or lyrics they've written, then. But if they're a public person, I can write a show about. People have written mocking off-Broadway shows about Donald Trump. They don't need his permission. They don't need to give him anything.
Wow.
Yeah, it's true. As opposed to something like Beatlemania or Rain, where it's a group of people dressed as the Beatles playing Beatles songs. They could be dressed as the Beatles and write their own songs, and then they have to pay. They don't have to pay anybody. But when you take copyright something that's something else, which is kind of reasonable if you think about it. But I don't know this for sure, but I think Daniel Wise is actually going to address the idea of
that's crazy
permission and copyrighting material.
Permission.
By the way, Daniel Wise is also a rabbi. He's an ordained rabbi.
Just to marry people or really to do it?
We can find out. But he studied.
Some people do that. Like, I've had a lot of friends who are like, people are getting married. They're like, oh, we need an officiant. Get the license so you can make it official. No,
this isn't from one of those like mail order. I'm a rabbi things. He's yeshiva taught, like serious, rabbinical halacha kind of a thingy. So that's the reason we had a pre-tape.
He's talking to Saul.
He's talking to Rabbi Sol Solomon.
Problem.
Saul has talked to other rabbis.
Yeah, but not anyone who's real.
Rabbi Sol Solomon talks to the rabbis in his head.
I think he talks to rabbits, but
I
don't think
By the way, let me remind you, as we come close to 9:30. Thank you. Yeah, after because we got
your guest.
Eva Heinemann coming up.
Oh, Eva.
She is a theater critic. She's going to be talking about
She's a lovely human.
Oh yeah, the year in theater. That's the thing. We are doing a Total Theater Broadway special. Our 18th.
Got the Mavens coming in. The Mavens and the Mavers.
Who's that?
All your theater people.
Well, yeah, we got David Sheward.
Is Maven female, like, generated? Like, Maven is for women? Or
No. A Maven is just someone who
enjoys something.
Yeah. Okay. I don't think there's any gender to it. No. Oh, look. Speak of the opposite of the devil. Speak of the angel. Eva Heinemann is waiting in the Daverhood.
I will make you some tea,
Thank you, sweetie. So, yes, we got Eva, David Sheward, Leslie Hoban Blake, Brian Scott Lipton, and Ed Rubin, all theater critics, all friends of mine, all of whom have been on this. Why is there such a white internal sleeve thing here? All of whom have been theater critics for years, friends of mine and colleagues for years. All of them going to be talking about the theater and the Broadway season with us and the Tony Awards too. And Daniel Wise, the writer-director of the Broadway and off-Broadway musical Soul Doctor that is now the filmed experience of Soul Doctor. He's going to be in the Daverhood too on this episode, the 898th episode of Dave's Gone By. So yeah, we've got tons of fun happening for you. So let's admit Eva Heinemann into the Daverhood. Again, she is lively and fun and so smart about the theater. So this is going to be a great time. Won't you please welcome, as I've admitted her, I hope I admitted her. Oh, Zoom, don't let me down. Here we go. Coming to the Daverhood, all the way from the Village in Manhattan, the host of High Drama for how many years has it been, Eva?
Oh, it must have been at least 30. So I'm trying to get sorted out here. It's early in there we go.
And she's our first guest, and one of the reasons she wanted to be on early is that at 10 o'clock she's taping her newest episode of High Drama, which people can watch on Facebook. You have a YouTube. Where do your High Dramas go?
Okay, maybe loud. Okay.
Good morning. Good Shabbos to you. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm on YouTube. Look under Eva Heinemann, not the Japanese anime. Go Eva Heinemann High Drama. I'm on Facebook High Drama and Twitter 6_second_reviews.
6_second. Oh, second as in SES.
Yeah, basically 6 second review. You pick something off the floor after 6 seconds. I was being clever.
I know. I got it.
And I'm still on M&M. I'm still there.
Manhattan Neighborhood Network, which is the cable. What do they call it? Public access.
Yes. We're on every other Saturday. Our next show is going to be next Saturday, which is June 17th.
Cool. So, Eva, when I told you that I was emailed you and I said, I'm kind of stepping away from the theater this year. Not always. I feel very distanced from it. And immediately you went into ultimate high dudgeon mode. Like, you missed the best theater season ever.
It's true. It's true. The crowd has made it clear. This has been the season all year. I couldn't resist it.
Well, what was so great? Really,
Okay.
seriously. What did you love so much? Yeah.
Sorry, I had to put everything down. So, I mean, I'm going into my looking at things mode. So I'm not looking at the screen now.
Sure.
Okay. All right. First of all, best book of a musical. There was only one thing that didn't belong in there. That was New York, New York, which was not so good. But Juliet was so clever. Oh my gosh. The way they used the music, because it's Mrs. Shakespeare arguing with Mr. Shakespeare about the ending of Juliet. Why the heck should she die? She's 13 years old. That's ridiculous. So they argue over this, who gets to rewrite it, and they're arguing over the quill, and they start singing, I want it that way. Clever.
So it's jukebox, but jukebox cleverly, with the songs really tucked in there cleverly.
Right. And then you have Polizot, which is so serious in South Pacific. Here he's cavorting and gambling about, singing teenage love song. I mean, it was brilliant. It was so funny. And then you've got Shuck, which is Robert Horn, who's like our new Neil Simon. He did Tootsie last year. It was one-liner pun, quit, funny thing after another. And Some Like It Hot was so rewritten, so much for today, and so beautiful. And then you got Kimberly Akimbo, which is just this incredible, heartbreaking, heartwarming story. And then the scores I'm so glad for the score. They brought in Almost Famous and K-pop, which were totally overlooked this season. I thought they were wonderful. And best performance by an actor. I'm so glad that Sean Hayes is letting people know about Oscar Levant, because I have been in love with Oscar Levant. Everyone should read his book, Memoirs of an Amnesiac. He is hysterical. And Sean Hayes did an incredible job. And I love Stephen McKinley Henderson, who teaches in Buffalo. I'm glad
He's getting a special award. Stephen McKinley Henderson is winning like a special Tony this year, right? Am I?
Oh, well, he got nominated for Between Riverside and Crazy. I don't know about a special award.
Well, I'm sorry. No, maybe he's just a nominee. I could be complete. Sorry, my mistake. Mistake.
That's okay.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to quickly go down through everything.
Please, yeah.
Best performance by an actress. Jodie Comer is just a standout. My God, she takes over the whole stage, tells this really riveting story that it just makes you want to scream, and she's doing it all by herself. And I do not know what Jessica Stain or anything from Doll's House is doing up there. It's like an Eva Von Ho production. It is just like they ruined the text. It's just seeing her going around and around and around, staring dead face, giving it was just
you hated Doll's House.
Beyond anything. Now, best performance by an actor, you've got J. Harrison Gee, who is just so delightful in Some Like It Hot, but then you've got Ben Platt in Parade, who just gives this incredible performance. It's just like, you don't like him in the beginning, you just don't, and you're supposed to be sympathetic, but you begin to like him later on. And now, actress in a leading role. I mean, you got Victoria Clark and Kimberly Akimbo, who should win, because my gosh, she has to play the 70-year-old who was really a 16-year-old teenager, because that's this disease she has. And Lorna Courtney and Juliet and Michaela Diamond in Parade, wonderful. And for actor in a featured role, I'm so glad they remembered Ain't No Mo, which I just loved from the public, and that they brought it here. And then Leopoldstadt. Excuse me, I've seen that 3 times. First thing,
have you really? You've seen Leopoldstadt 3 times? Wow.
When I went to London a couple years ago for my holiday before COVID ended and theater came back, first thing off the plane, I went straight to see Leopoldstadt. I didn't know it was going to come here. And then I got to see it twice, and Brandon Aronowitz is so good at it. I mean, everyone. I mean, personally, I think Leopoldstadt and Parade should win everything, but that's just me. Right. But I'm glad they brought up Cost of Living, which is a wonderful play. And again, you have the guy with multiple sclerosis. I always get them mixed up. But he's not a good guy. he's not a good, you think, oh, disabled, oh, you feel so. No, he's an evil bastard. They could be evil bastards too, So it was really a good play. And I love Fat Ham. I mean, that was just, and so, and then, now best for in a featured role, that's difficult. Because Kevin Calhoun, who usually plays the villain and everything, in Shuck, he was this like clueless, naive person that just said the funniest things ever. Justin Cooley, who had this romance with Victoria Clark, was just so touching. But Kevin Delaguila in Some Like It Hot was just like, oh my God, I want to take him home with me and wrap him in a bow.
Oh, okay. Don't do that. There's laws against that.
I know. That doesn't mean I want bondage with him, please. I just realized that came out wrong. Featured role in a musical. You got Julia Lester, Little Red Riding Hood, and Into the Woods. I mean, Alfie, when he was 4 years old, could sing that song, and it was so cute because he couldn't say valuable. He goes, wow, whoa, whoa.
Alfie, by the way, is Eva's son, who is now in his 20s, but back when he was, okay. I'm just putting in some context here. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's still his favorite musical. It's like nobody ever gets to see Into the Woods because I always take Alfie, but Epic Theater Company is doing Into the Woods right now, and I can finally bring somebody else because Alfie just saw it on Broadway. So finally someone else gets to go with me to see Into the Woods. And Ruthie and Miles, you'll never recognize her as a beggar woman in Sweeney Todd. And then you got Bonnie Milligan, who's just so delightfully evil, and Kimberly Akimbo, and Natasha Yvette Williams, she brings down the house with Some Like It Hot, and Betsy Wolfe plays Mrs. Shakespeare. And let's see. Oh, and of course, scenic design, you've got Life of Pi. Oh my gosh, Life of Pi. Those puppets, they should give a special award to the puppet in Life of Pi. That is such a good, amazing play. And I love the costumes in Paloma Young did and Juliet, because she takes Shakespearean stuff and weds them to modern dress. So it was just fun to see what they were wearing. So direction, all of it is good for Fat Ham, Cost of Living, Leopoldstadt, Ain't No More Life of Pi. In fact, all the rest, I'm just glad they got K-pop in there and everything else. So
it sounds like the only thing you didn't like all season was A Doll's House. On Broadway, I'm saying. That's one of the things that we're lucky to have Eva with, because she does high drama, and you also live in the village, is that you see a lot of our other critics today aren't going to be able to speak to this, but you also see off Broadway, TC and
Tony Mug.
Tony Mug, of course. So moving away from Broadway, since you gave us this incredible rundown.
Oh, I just want to say, New York, because I didn't say too much about it, was the book was terrible. The leading people were kind of blah. And of course, but it has Susan Stroman choreography and Beowulf Borod's great set, and Emily Skinner is in it. So that part was good.
But what was your favorite off Broadway show of the season? One or two of them. I know one is asking too much, but one or two.
Oh no, this is the one. I was on your show when I brought this up because I just seen it, and me and Leslie Hoban Blake disagreed about this, but Only Gold.
Only Gold. Just tell us real quick. Remind us what that was about.
Andy Buchan.
I can do it. Yeah.
He should have. I mean, for all the awards off Broadway, he should have won every one. I'm sorry. It was the most incredible choreography. It was just magical, and I just So it's a fairy tale about this couple from France, and they're forcing their daughter to marry someone, but of course she falls in love with somebody else. And then you have this other couple where he's trying to become an artist, and what happens to them? But oh God, that choreography! It just was
Only Gold, which was, I guess, an off-Broadway show. Do you have a favorite off, like something either at La Mama or Theater for the New City, or what other off theaters are still there? The Chain, maybe?
Yeah, the Chain. I was just going to mention there was this play called McBitches. And I can't remember the name of the other play that this person directed, but if I see that person's name, I'm going to do it, because one was about this horrible old mother who was being evicted from her house and her children, and you find out how horrible she is. But McBitches was hysterical. It was these college kids, and they all wanted to play Lady M, and this freshman got the part, and they invite her over, but they have all these horrible, evil sort of, damn Scottish play mechanisms against her. And it was just, it really worked so well with that premise. I like it when they take, updo premises.
Right. See, what I love when Eva talks about the theater is, I'm jaded and I didn't go much this year, and what I saw was mad. And then I hear her, running through these categories and running through what's playing in New York, and I'm like, I want to see that. Oh, I want to. And I'm probably a lot of times I disagree with your assessments of shows. We have different tastes, but I still want to see what you've seen because you feel so passionately about it, and then we can disagree in that way about it. So, last question. Oh yeah, please, Eva. What?
No, I was going to say the thing about bitches. We get sent press releases, tons and tons of press releases, and we have our favorite press agents, and Katie Rosin happens to be one of mine, and I'm like, oh, I can actually squeeze this in. So I wasn't expecting, I was just, I wanted to be nice to Katie Rosin, and it was a surprise. Don't you love it when you go to see something, you have no idea what it is, and you're like, oh my God, this is brilliant, and you would have missed it if you hadn't been kind of forced into going.
Well, I've had that for so many years. Especially back in the day when I was trying to see everything. You still see everything, and it's what you do. And then you go to the theater, and you're like, okay, let me see what this is. And you come out of the theater, it's like, oh, I can't believe I wouldn't have even been on my radar, and I got to see it. How lucky did I need? So, are you? You used to go to the Tonys sometimes. Are you going? Are you?
I can afford it now. I love going, even with a discount. I think they charge like $700 or something insane.
Wow.
I still remember last year, we're going to be nice and let the students go. They said, we'll only charge $350. Yeah, another student loan there.
And this is Broadway trying to, on one level, it's trying to be more inclusive and show more genders and more colors and more this. At the same time, it's like, how much is a regular ticket for a Broadway? Oh, $300. Oh, how much is a Tony ticket? $700. And there's still that wonderful disconnect.
But you know what I do? I want to give a plug to this because this is my third year running doing this. Seth Radufsky does this very affordable show in the clubs all over the place. You can get a drink, some food while watching, and during commercial breaks, you just give him a name and he'll gossip about that person. So you can say Mandy Patinkin, and you get this wonderful Mandy Patinkin story.
I can give you a Mandy Patinkin story, but yes, that sounds great. So he's doing it where? Is he doing it at Don't Tell Mama, or was he doing it?
No. This year he's doing it at the Triad.
Oh.
Last year he did it at Playa Betty's, and the year before that he did it at Caveat. So he's like the traveling crap game. He's a traveling Tony show.
And affordable crap game in the of Tony Dumb.
Under $40.
There you go. Well, you are priceless, Eva Heinemann. Remember to watch her show, which is high, and remember, it's high exclamation point drama, which you can find on YouTube, which you can find on Facebook, which you can find, of course, still on MNN, Manhattan Neighborhood Network, which also you can watch, by the way, on a streaming device. So even if you're not in Manhattan, if you go to mnn.org and look.
Just go to YouTube. In fact, it's better to go to the YouTube because we make a lot of mistakes at the MNN one, quite frankly. So we have more time for YouTube to make it perfect. So go to YouTube to see the perfect version of our show.
And the YouTube channel is?
Eva Heinemann.
Oh, Eva Heinemann with two N's on the end. Heinemann, like the German.
Yeah, and not the Japanese anime. So if you go Eva Heinemann High Drama, you'll find us and subscribe.
Please do. And Eva, good Shabbos to you. Thank you so much for being with us in the Daverhood on the Broadway special.
We have to do the Tony thing, you and me. It's tradition.
It's tradition. Next year, when I see more shows, I'm in.
Yay.
Love you, Eva. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Eva Heinemann in the Daverhood on our special Tony show, our special Broadway special, I should say. So, we have much, much more show for you. We have, if there's time, there's some quiz questions I'm going to do for you, and it's not going to be like our weekly Today, Yesterday, crazy quiz. There'll be theater questions for a more general audience. We have, normally we have our Colorado Limericks of the Damned, where I do a poem every week about some place in Colorado, and it's awful and mean. This is different. We have our Broadway Limericks of the Darned. Those are coming up too. You don't want to miss those. So yeah, and wonderful folks, just like Eva, including Brian Scott Lipton, David Sheward, Leslie Hoban, Blake, Ed Rubin. But before all that, yesterday, Rabbi Sol Solomon, who is a theater person in his own right. He did the off-Broadway show Shalom Dammit, An Evening with Rabbi Sol Solomon. He does a lot of our interviews, and he got to interview another rabbi, a fellow named Daniel Wise, who's not only a rabbi, but he's also a producer, a writer, and a director. He created the musical Soul Doctor, which played in various, and it's playing still in various places all over the country, but it's played off-Broadway, on Broadway, and now on June 13th, there's going to be a special screening of the new filmed performance, I guess you would call it, of Soul Doctor at a movie theater near you. Fathom Events is doing the coordination and the sponsoring of it. So if you go to Fathom Events and put in your zip code, you can find out where you can see this Tuesday evening Soul Doctor. Why would you go see Soul Doctor? A musical about Reb Shlomo Carlebach and also his friendship with Nina Simone. Why indeed? Well, we're going to have Rabbi Sol and the director-creator Daniel Wise telling you about it. So I've just got to share my screen here. I hope that works. It does work. And now, here's, without further ado or don't, Rabbi Sol Solomon and, let me make this bigger. Can I make this bigger? I can make this much bigger. And Daniel Wise here in the Daverhood. Oh, shalom, my friends, shalom, my enemies. This is your old pal, Rabbi Sol Solomon, founder and spiritual leader of Temple Sons of Bitches in Great Neck, New York. And oh, what a delight! I have talked to you since the beginning when I was on this program about my love for the music of Reb Shlomo Carlebach. He was a folk singer as well as a rabbi. And he would play at places like the Village Gate and downtown in the village, so he straddled two worlds, which can be very painful. But he did it beautifully, and his music lasts, even though he passed many years ago. So, who knew? Who would ever figure that they would make a musical about his life? Not a musical, okay, we'd play off-Broadway. Then it went to Broadway for a while, and then went back to off-Broadway. And who would even ever think beyond this that there would be a movie? And they made a movie of Soul Doctor, the life of Shlomo Carlebach, and also how it intersected with the great Nina Simone, who is not Jewish, but we like her anyway. So, here's the deal. Soul Doctor, which is written and directed by the guy next to me right here. Here is, you're going to get a special chance to see it this Tuesday, June 13th, playing at a theater near you. If you happen to be, I'm in Maryland at the moment. You can see it in Towson or Owings Mills or Columbia. It's at the Westbury Theater on Long Island. There's one in Denver and Fort Collins. If you're in Colorado, all over the country, chances to see Soul Doctor, the movie by this man, Daniel Wise. We are with a wise guy, ladies and gentlemen. Shalom, Daniel. How you doing?
Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem. A good Erev Shabbos.
A good Shabbos to you too. And then you look well. Are you having I saw what you were drinking there in that glass, that orange juice before.
L'chaim.
Yeah, that isn't all orange juice, let me tell you. I mean, here's my moment. So you
all day.
L'chaim to you too.
L'chaim.
This is, the wine sauce that they put herring in. This is what I'm drinking right now. So let me, first of all, say a mazel tov to you.
They put some orange juice in my vodka. Who did that? Who spiked my vodka?
Is that terrible? Maybe it's a mistake because I want you to go back to wine. Let me ask you, you are actually not just a writer, not just a director, but you are an ordained rabbi. I'm a disdained rabbi, but you're actually an ordained rabbi. Is that true?
Well, I don't know what, I think ordination is kind of like a Catholic idea that you have certain powers vested in you. I have a smicha, so when I received the smicha, I realized from Rabbi Hirschsprung and some other great rabbis in Montreal, and smicha means that he relies on me, so it's the previous generation saying, I'm relying on you. Smicha means to lean and to rely on. So it's a previous generation saying, listen, I've studied with you, I've mentored you, now I've tested you, and I can rely on you to take on the spiritual needs and community needs of the next generation. So I'm trying to make good on his trust in me, but it's not an ordination that makes me a different person than anyone else or some kind of spiritual powers. That I've received from my new faith.
Which is?
Oh, I've become a very devout pastafarian. And
yeah, we're talking. There's an actual thing, by the way. It's a group of people who eat a ton of pasta and believe in. Are you from the sect that believes in whole wheat, or are you from the Semolina group?
Oh well, first of all, I've become the Pasta Rebbe, and we have the Pasta Hasidim. So it's a Jewish group, and on Passover is a very difficult time for all of us. We have 612ers. We do. We have a lot of our Hasidic members that we call them pastanisht, which they don't eat pasta on Pesach, and others do rice pasta on Pesach.
I hate to tell you,
just don't take it.
Matzah meal. They do it. You can buy it, but they don't. I don't.
No, not for us. No.
But are you, quote unquote? I mean, joking aside, but let's get back to joking very soon. Are you a quote unquote real rabbi? Can you marry people? Or are you already married and happily so?
I want you to know that I've married 2 people, and I wouldn't hire me based on the statistics of the result. I'm still friends with all 4 of them, but I don't know if any of the 4 shall ever meet again.
All right.
But it was a great book. I'll tell you something.
What?
Well, the first time I married someone, at the end I said, Mazel Tov on your first marriage. And
yeah, that did not bode well. That's not probably the best thing to say.
I was being honest.
Oh, you knew. Wait, but
I didn't really say that. But I was thinking that. And
no, but this is interesting because the host of this program, Dave, he married a nice woman who converted before, and she was Jewish and he's Jewish, but they went to a rabbi for many months. And one of the things the rabbi said before he would actually deign to conduct the ceremony and do it was to make absolutely sure, first of all, not that Jewish, but that they were right for each other, that it was going to work out. You were like, give me the money, I'll do the blessing, and you're in. Or no?
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, I remember there were 3 marriages. One of them, he came to me and said, Rabbi, what should I do? I'm getting married. I don't have money. I said, come back when you have money. And
you are Jewish.
I said, do.
Yes.
But I'll tell you the story of my first wedding that I performed. I was about 19 years old. I used to give classes at Rabbi Baumzer's Young Israel of Flatbush, I guess, on Ocean Parkway.
Ocean Parkway! We love Ocean Parkway!
So my 2 buddies who used to come to the shiur, one's a fellow violinist. They're the Epstein brothers, and I think they had a sister too. All became Chabad Bali Tshuva, and their parents back in Chattanooga, Tennessee, were very, very pleased and filled with nachat of their children and grandchildren. So they decided they were going, after 40 years, they were going to do a Jewish wedding. And they asked me to come do it. And he called me, wanted to get everything right, Mr. Epstein, Dr. Epstein, from Chattanooga. And I gave him a list of what he needed to bring, which was basically a glass that can break in a double bag. I told him about a ring that has to be his in his possession. He has to buy it physically. The wine has to say mivushal, which he wrote. And I said a ketubah. He also said that he had the Alter Rebbe's nigun written down that he's going to have performed that his kids gave, the Chabad nigun, and everything was fine. When we came before the wedding, before the chuppah, it was a small 10-person little marriage. And I asked him for the ketubah, and he said he's coming in a moment up the stairs. And in walked a little guy with a gigantic tuba, and he said, He plays for the New York Philharmonic. He's got the notes. We sent him the whole score of the Alter Rebbe's nigun. And we had to find someone else's ksuba. We did a Xerox copy and whited it out and put his tuba in there. And it all worked out because they walked up to the tuba with a big boom, 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 boom. It was really beautiful. They had a tuba and a tuba and a guy in Mavushal.
Is this a real story?
It's a true story, yeah. You can actually find the Epstein boys. One works for the Lubavitch Chabad Youth Organization, and
this is By the way, we should have explained a ketubah for people. There are actually non-Jews who watch this program. I discourage them from it, but they tune in. So it is the thing. It is the Jewish marriage contract. It's like you go to New York State for the legal one, and you go to jewelry for the Jewish one. Anyway, let me ask you, before we've been talking, we're having a great time, but let's talk about Soul Doctor. Now, did you ever meet Reb Shlomo Karbach?
Yeah, I knew Shlomo very well as a child until the age of 6 or 7, very much, and he would do be-ins in the house, and I have a little kind of qualifier when people ask me this question. I mean, I say, like, I'm in New York, and like anyone who works in the theater district, have you ever met the Naked Cowboy? Have you ever met, the fellow at the information desk in Grand Central Station? Everyone knew Shlomo Karbach. Everyone.
Well, knew.
Everyone in the Jewish community knew him and felt he knew him and he knew them, because Shlomo Karbach would walk down the street. It could take him 2 or 3 hours to walk around the block in Borough Park. He met everyone. He remembered their names. He hugged them. Even if it was a 20-second exchange. Today, as people come, the thousands of people come to the Broadway show, they come and they say, oh, I knew Shlomo. I met him once. He said, Holy Brother. He looked at me, and 20 years later, he said, Holy Brother, how you doing again? And he remembered me. He was very transformative. He was very there. And today you walk down the street in New York, it's blinding. Humanity is blinding. You can't walk down the street if you start, you become a little Machiavellian, how am I going to get through this crowd? Shlomo Karbach would walk down the street and see the homeless people. He was like going on a shopping spree. Look, here's a homeless guy, and he would empty his pockets and go out and give his money away.
Well, I don't want to mix up what you actually witnessed, because you said you were 5 or 6 years old.
Yeah, but then later I knew him afterwards. But even at 5 or 6, we would walk down the street with him, and he would empty his pockets, give his coat. We'll go around, try to find food. I mean, he knew their names. He played concerts for them. He carried around a little cologne perfume when there was an older or man or woman who hadn't bathed in a long time. He would say, look, I bought this for you, and he would spray them and then hug them.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
So I knew him as a child. He would tell stories in the house until I was 6 or 7, up all night, and I had a great experience with that.
Danny, I lost your image there. I don't know why.
Right. My
Where'd
phone.
you go? Now it's just me, although I hear you. So keep talking. We may have to continue this with everybody looking at just me, which is a horrible thing.
Yeah, they were in a minute. It's just my phone recharging for a second. I'm sorry about that.
Okay, get that. How did you direct the movie? With all that, it took so much for the tech on this, and we can't get a Zoom thing. There we go. Now you're black, which is all right. You're not playing Nina Simone here. You're just invisible for the moment.
I'm recharging my phone. Yeah, it's a big thing to get my image. I want it to be something special.
Oh.
Yeah, the film, it's interesting you talk about the visual. Most people in trailers and, they see, let me see something from the movie. And it's interesting that today's cinema dilemma of the cinema industry, which is a worldwide existential question that especially came to play over COVID. Why do we need movie theaters? Why should people go to the theater? You can see something at home, you could press pause. So they say people like to gather together to hear stories, which is really what this is about. But what most people do not really appreciate, because it's the unseen, is that most of the technology in a movie theater, and most of the in a high like an AMC or a Regal or Cinemark, where they put in nationwide like $1 billion to upgrade their theater, most of it goes into the audio, into the sound, to the Dolby. And people don't realize that the experience, I mean, a picture is as sharp as a picture is going to be. Very few people can tell the difference between a 70 millimeter and a 35 millimeter and a Blu-ray. Even even professional projectionists will say, if you put them side by side, and yeah, there is a difference, so you experience a difference, you can't see that difference. But I will tell you that when you walk into a movie theater, the first thing they give you, those trailers, Godzilla, boom, boom. You hear such an amazing spectrum and dynamic. So it's symphonic, and they have symphony orchestras playing for you. And people say a movie or a musical. No, every movie is a musical.
Well, because people, everybody's got a 40-inch, a 50-inch, or 70-inch TV, and most people don't have the audio quality stuff to go. They don't get the soundbar thing. They don't get the woofers and the tweeters and the hookers. They don't bother with it, so they don't realize is that
the hookers they have, but it's the tweeters that are hard to get.
So
I'd like to say that I recently saw a home theater, like a very basic new home theater, like that's on the level, not exactly of a movie theater. It was at a show and it was like in Philadelphia, and it was a setup that was kind of like you put it in and 2 stands, and it was $78,000 for the basic setup. To create any kind of sound that sounds like a movie theater, you have to design the room. You have to, be in a certain place. It's not, unless you put on special, I will tell you, if you put on special headphones, it's still not surround sound. You're not in the story. And what I did with this movie, because it's a live show, and Soul Doctor's always been played in the round or semi-round. We were in the circle, in the square in Broadway, and it's Shlomo Kalbach always performed from in front of the stage. It took him an hour to get to the stage because he was hugging everyone. It was about the Shlomo Kalbach experience took place not in front of Shlomo's microphone, but in the theater itself, and he would walk in and out of the theater. It was the energy of the room, and it was the being. It was absolutely that, and that's really what Soul Doctor has always been about, not what's on stage, but what's in the audience. So for recording, how do you recreate a live production? And everyone is always focusing, when they do the live captures, the main focus is absolutely on how you're going to capture the video, the lighting challenges of a blown out theatrical lighting rig, right? And then you have to adapt that for a film. It's a whole other treatment. And I realized that you can't compete with film in terms of a studio film. You can't bring the people into the picture in the way you do in regular film. It's still theater where you're bringing the story into the room. And therefore, what we did, I really invested in an extraordinary recording of the actual performance, where we mic'd the entire theater and the audience about 78 different points with different omnidirectional and boom mics all around. And that was created by a brilliant, I think he won the Oscar actually, called Ronen Nagal. And he designs soundscape installations at the MoMA and at the new museum and all over the world, at Balboa. So this was really an art installation of soundscape, and it was about a year and a half of work to create the situation, the environment that when you see Soul Doctor, it was very successful, because like in the real show, in the middle of the movie, during the happy songs, you see the audience getting up in the aisles, dancing in the front of the aisles, wanting to go on stage. And because of that soundscape that was created through this Dolby, these Dolby systems cost about $800,000-$900,000 for every little theater.
A pittance.
And that's the experience really that Soul Doctor you could only see in the theater. People say, "Are you going to stream it? When are you going to stream it?" Never. This was not made for streaming. You can't really see Soul Doctor.
Never say never. There's going to be people who want to see this 5 years from now. They can't roll back to June 13th in a time machine and go back and see it. So
true. But we'll have a version. We'll have a version that'll be ready, for that, specially adapted. But it's a different piece.
So, and I do want to say, so this is what you did was in doing Soul Doctor. You kind of did like this mega version of the actual Broadway or wherever it's played, the theater show. It's a movie, but it's a movie of the performance, right? And we're going to get that. I wasn't so clear on that. So it's like you're at the show, as opposed to you turn Soul Doctor into a very different entity, into like a movie. Am I right?
Yeah. They call this a live capture, and our partner and exhibitor, Fathom Event. They're the largest distributors in the world, actually. And my phone is back, so you can let me in when you want.
Oh, Ms. Mazel. Okay, this is good. see if we can get Daniel Wise back. Wisely done, almost.
I'd like a vote from your crowd if I have a better voice for radio or a face for radio.
Well, the voice is really, really nice. And what you need is better pictures on the interwebs. Well, you need a headshot, because there's no decent picture of you on the web. So you need to get some of those if you're going to be doing more press. I'm still not seeing your face. I
don't know why you're not seeing my face now.
I'm still looking at...
I think I have to press something there.
Wait, hold on. Almost, maybe. No.
There I am. Do you see me?
No, I do not. This is still radio with me. Hold on. I mean, we'll do what we can. All right, fine. You're back. Mademoiselle, welcome back. Okay, so we're talking with Daniel Wise, who is the creator-director of Soul Doctor, which, if you missed it off Broadway, if you missed it on Broadway, you can still see it this coming week, going to a local movie theater near you. It's going to be one within 10, 15 miles of where you live, unless you're in really the boonies somewhere.
Even in the boonies.
Or the Boonowitzes, if they're Jewish boonies. But let me ask you, Daniel Wise, about this. So, it's one thing to grow up knowing Reb Shlomo. It's another to say, you know what? I'm going to write a show about him. Which must have happened like at least 15, maybe 20 years ago, right? In terms of when the project really started. So what convinced you, A, that you would and could write a show? And then how'd you go about getting it from like a finished manuscript in your computer to on a stage?
You used all the operative words. And so you set up the story. You said the word project, getting it from idea, show to stage, and then to screen, and the operative word is project. I was on my way. I was producing or directing the China production of Rent. We were bringing the first Broadway production with the Broadway cast to China, to Wuhan.
And by the way, over there, did they call it Lent? No, that's terrible.
That was funny. And then we actually, they did. And we actually did all our rehearsals and production in Wuhan and then went all throughout Asia. And I'm on my way. It's a high pressure. I can't be late. And this fellow I meet on the street who I had seen at the Karlbach Shul the previous Friday night, and he was a newcomer to the neighborhood. He says, "Hey, I want to talk to you. You have 3 minutes, Broadway and 70th Street." I said, I don't have time right now, but I said, okay. To myself, what would Shlomo do? Shlomo never would refuse someone who wants to talk to him, even if he was late to perform at the Metropolitan Opera House, which happened many times. He would come an hour, 2 hours late because people needed to talk to him. And I said, okay, 3 minutes. We ordered a tea. We sat down and he said, "I heard you're a Broadway Hollywood guy. I have an idea to make a Broadway show about Shlomo Karlbach." So I said, "You have an idea or it's a project?" He said, "No, a project." I said, "Well, the first thing is something has to be written." And he said, "I know, a script." I said, "No, not a script, a check. Because if you want it to be a project, you need to write a check, so there could be a script." He said, "How much?" I said, "If you put $50,000 together, we'll see what if there's a show there, if there's a character who has, dimensions and struggles and challenges, and what there's an arc there, and what the turning points in his life are, and how the music is, what's narrative or a jukebox, what our approach is. We'll hire a lyricist and a director and do a workshop." And he wrote a check on the spot. He said, "Where do I make it out to?" I said, the Shlomo Theater Company. He said, "You have a company called the Shlomo Theater Company?" Write me a check, I'll open an account.
Right,
so he did, and we had a workshop. the Folksbiene, the National Yiddish Theater.
Yes, the folks who did Yiddish Fiddler, yeah.
Yep, the Yiddish Fiddler, and Zalman Malotik, who knew Shlomo very well, played with him many times. Zalman wrote, put together, got the organization behind us. It was their first semi-English production. We had a little Yiddish in it, but we played it at the JCC. We had a great cast. The heart of the show has barely changed since then, but it took over an hour to get the audience out after the show. They were singing and dancing and celebrating, and we knew at that moment that this was going to be an audience-driven enterprise event, like the Shlomo experience. And we were going to follow the audience to wherever the audience was going to take us, which took us to Broadway and all over the world, and now to all the communities in the world. And that really has to do with how it was discovered once we turned it into a film.
Well,
the black audiences that did that. That was really the African-American audiences that really turned this into a national event.
Well, because did you realize, halfway through, or at what point did you think, you know what, it's Shlomo's story, but if this is going to go anywhere beyond like a very insular Jewish community, also the fact that all the critics were pointing out that on some level the core of the show is also his not relationship, his friendship with Nina Simone. And you sort of kind of must have realized, when we better kind of focus on that a little more if we want this to keep, going this way rather than this way. True?
It's interesting, again, from the audiences, but also, again, really creating a piece that held together the more we expanded it. And it became very episodic, and we've staged maybe a total of 5 or 6 hours if you use all the different directions we went to, and that's why we plan to do a television series. And we have plenty of material there. But really, as we continued, again, listening to the audiences, and the show was really following a very short interview that Shlomo had, that we conducted thousands of pages of transcripts of interviews afterwards over the next years. But it really followed a very simple arc where Shlomo was telling the story of his life and the turning points. And really, the first riddle, when you're going to dramatize, and I don't mean that in what some people think, that dramatization is a falsification or fictionization. It's just the opposite. Dramatization means we try to find what the real dimensions of the personalities, his physiology, his psychology, his sociology, where he comes from, what those conflicts are, and how they relate to someone from a different world. So this is a very three-dimensional, six-dimensional, 360 study of characters, of the worlds they come from. That's what drama is. Otherwise, it's not dramatic. The great riddle that we have of Shlomo Carlebach's life, he was a classical Talmudist. He was a classical violinist as a child till he was from Vienna. They were serious violin students. Nobody knows about that. Most people don't know that. He was.
I thought he just fiddled around, but that's just with young girls. I'm kidding.
That was after the bar mitzvah. The course of his life, and when you're writing a drama, the formulaic principle, they always say, you need the I want, what's his aspiration, and what's the challenge, and come up with a little somewhere over the rainbow, and there you got a show. He was on a completely different trajectory, very seriously. He was a classicist. He was someone who was living a monastic yeshiva life where he studied Talmud from morning until night. He never read a newspaper, never spoke to a woman, had no interaction with the world whatsoever. This is his life. Until he was in his late 20s, he started really reaching out into the world when he became the right-hand man, and I hear this really from those who were there at the time. He was the Lubavitcher Rebbe's closest emissary, and he and Zalman Schachter were the first emissaries of the Chabad movement to the college campuses. And Shlomo felt that if he was going to ask them to separate from the boys and the girls to the right and left of the room, there was no one left except for the next speaker. So he said after a while, he was looking, he became a rabbi here and there, he was up rabbi up in New Jersey, somewhere in the Hicks, and he was looking for some way, like as in Sister Act, the beginning of Sister Act. He felt that the Jewish expression, the Jewish experience, the Jewish culture, the worship, the connection to who they were, their identity, was bankrupt. It was an imitation, vicarious kind of clinging to a different world and a different time. And it wasn't integrated into the time. And all the culture from Europe was very, very much part of Europe. People can say it was, yes, it was part of certain level of enclave culture, but they were there, they lived there, they exchanged music and ideas and languages and so many cultures and tastes and sounds, and they were ghettoizing themselves culturally in America. And Shlomo wandered into he would have gotten fired if the people saw him walk into a bar, but he walked into the bar, the Midtown Bar and Grill in Atlantic City, 15 minutes from where he was a rabbi, and he ran into someone who also was a classicist, someone who, from the age of 4 until she was an adult, spent 6, 7, 8 hours a day practicing the piano, classical piano, until she became a great pianist. And it's a similar discipline, I could say, as a violinist, a similar discipline to Talmudic discipline. It's a classical discipline with tremendous, tremendous amount of hours and hours of focusing on minutia, a small phrase, and splitting it apart and putting it together. And,
well, that's Talmudic.
it's Talmudic, and memorizing, thousands of pages of notes and not having one wrong. And she was the daughter of clergy, and she sang in church. And she went out and broke from that tradition, and her mother was not to know that she played the devil's music in a bar, so she changed her name from Eunice Wayman to Nina Simone. And she wasn't a singer. She wanted to get into Curtis Conservatory, but this fellow at the bar who owned the bar said, look, if you want a job here, it's good pay, just have to sing something. She sang Spell on You. She said, I can't sing. And they met very shortly afterwards. She encouraged him to write music. She said, if you want to wake people up, got to write music. And if you want to know how to pray like a Jew, come to the church, come to my church. I'll show you how to pray, how to revive, how to come back to life. And she took him to Father Divine in Philadelphia. She helped him. Yes, there was someone who taught him guitar and someone who helped him here and there, but he really learned from her to write music and to create this Hasidic, the rich Hasidic vitality of the Hasidic music and the Hasidic practice was interpreted and adapted and influenced by his creation of what they called at that time Jewish soul music, but it really was a Hasidic gospel that Shlomo, till today, when you go into a Shlomo, any synagogue or wedding, as soon as they start singing the Shlomo music, everyone starts jumping around like the James Brown scene in
Oh yeah,
Blues Brothers.
Yeah. So let me ask you, in terms of family, you've got some people on board on this. So you got Nina Simone's daughter is supporting the film and helping the film and doing all this, and have the Carlbach kids. He has 2 daughters, I think. They've been supportive too, and they've been on board with the whole project. Are they helping? Are they? Where is everybody? All 3 of those people at?
Well, I could say right now, the Lisa Simone, and she spoke about this yesterday on television, actually, the other day. I knew Lisa Simone was the original character in the original cast of Rent, even in the workshop. And Rent is a very small, tight family, and therefore we had a lot of friends in common. I kind of knew her, but she was living in Miami, and we were playing in Miami prior to Broadway, and her bass player in her band was our bass player. And I get a call from the press agent saying, Lisa Simone is coming with her 8 agents and lawyers and who knows what's. She doesn't want any publicity. I said, oh my God, I'm going to get shut down. We were just, the story was starting to really focus on this. And I said, maybe we should change the name. It'll just be kind of a metaphor. He met someone in a bar, who cares who. And, I never went at that time to try to really clear this. We were developing something. I wasn't going to start licensing things.
Oh my God! So you were actually performing these. You could have been. You literally could have.
I thought she was coming to serve us a shutdown restraining order or something. And they certainly looked like it when I walked in. They were kind of very skeptical, and they wanted to actually see what this is. There were a lot of unlicensed projects and things going on at the time, and that they were not happy about. And I decided to go back to my hotel, put my pillow over my head, and just wait to get served, And I got a call afterwards. I go to the theater, and on stage, Lisa's there hugging Erica Ash, who was played Nina. And she came over to me and gave me a hug, and she said, we came here kind of with our guns, guns blazing. We really were skeptical. We wanted to see what this was. And she said that 2 minutes into that scene where Shlomo and Nina met, I started to cry uncontrollably, she said, because, you're the first person who wrote about my mother, who understood what her life was about. And because, it took me a while to realize that the Shlomo Carlebach is a rare piece of theatrical construct that is based on not pathos, but ethos. It's an ethos story. It's about two people who really wanted to change the world. It's a hard story to write about. It really is. There's very few. Othello is ethos. There is ethos in a lot of Shakespearean themes, particularly in some Greek drama. It's a harder study to relate as a theatrical, to follow that drama. The stakes are not so universally, simplified and identified with, and you've got to really bring it home. So that's how, in continuing to write, when she gave me that kind of encouragement, I felt much more liberty to really explore not just the relationship, the friendship, but the backgrounds and how that cosmic collision, really formed, some other kind of gravitational.
Well, let me ask you also, though. You were hoping, and fingers crossed, and it worked out great with Nina Simone's daughter. Did you need Neshama and the other Kalbach kids? You didn't really need their permission to write about him. He's a public figure. But did you approach them before you started doing all this, or were you kind of waiting for their shoe to drop and you were just doing it anyway?
Oh no! That we were, and Nadara is actually here, and she's very much part of from the very beginning, the family, and in every way, we were very, very committed to, and we're constantly involved with every voice that we could hear and incorporate and include. And of course, this is Shlomo Carlebach, and during his lifetime, I think people considered him a national treasure, therefore public property, and we were very careful that it did affect him. He wasn't able to really reap the financial benefit to create stability for his family, and we really, this was important for us to do everything in the most kosher way, because we were responsible to higher authority.
By the way, if you want to support all these people, just go to the movie. The movie is Soul Doctor. It's happening this Tuesday, 7 o'clock in most places in the evening, June 13th, at a theater near you. Go to Fathom Events and just put in your zip code or put in the town that you live in, and it'll give you the nearest movie theater where you can go see in 70-speaker surround sound with like jumbo elephants and streamers coming. God himself, God, is actually going to be at the screen. He's God. He can be all of them. So a little piece of God is going to be looking down, going, "Oh, this is a good show. I'm going to watch it."
He was the only one we could cast that could actually be in 600 places at the same time.
There you go. Now, is the purpose you've done this for? Are you hoping now to get the show back up across America, like to do a equity tour, non-equity tour, get up in colleges? What is your next focus with this material?
Right now, it was really important that there be, this phenomenon. I look at the theaters, and I see that this little story is playing in small towns in Bethel, Alaska, where there's no roads to get there. You need a ski plane, and a little 35-seat theater with recliner chairs, and in every island, 4 islands in Hawaii, in Kona, and Honolulu, and Oahu, and in the Grand Forks, North Dakota, and little places here and there.
So it's licensed. It's playing in a lot of different places already.
No, this is Fathom is bringing it everywhere.
Oh, I'm talking about the movie. Yeah.
So I think that right now I'm going to continue with this attitude of let the audience say what they want, and usually after a movie, I think after this awareness, there will be tours, and right now I've heard people saying they want to bring it back to Broadway next year, and so this is not exclusive of the live production. But I think that usually, and this is a phenomenon with the Metropolitan Opera as well, that the Fathom events is counterintuitive a little bit, but when you see it so live, you want to see it live.
The old thinking is very different. People were worried, oh my God, if they put Hamilton on Disney, oh yeah, there you go again. If they put Hamilton on Disney, it's going to go to Hamilton in the theater. They did it with Legally Blonde. It ran for a long time. Chicago, of course, the ultimate deal breaker. Chicago, Oscar-winning movie. Who's going to go to the Broadway to see it? They can see the movie. No. There's something different. There's something special about it. So are you working on any other shows, any other projects, or is your whole life just Shlomo-centric right now? Or not, but in 6 months, let's say.
Oh, well, in terms of this particular piece, so Lisa Simone, who's come on as, she's an Academy Award nominated a producer. She produced What Happened, Miss Simone, which is the most viewed documentary ever on Netflix. I think they've had 80 or 100 million views, and she's now working to create a television series that really focuses on all these intersecting lives. These were citizens who changed the world, and they all knew each other. We were friends, and they disagreed and agreed and related to each other. Nina Simone, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Rabbi Heschel, Shlomo Carlebach's father, Shlomo Carlebach, and many, many, many others. Is
Arnold Stang in there? I'm kind of hoping Arnold Stang is in there somewhere.
Well, you're gonna, if you come in and write an Arnold Stang episode, we'll sit at the writers' table. Seriously, it's incredible how these people were really on it wasn't an official revolution. It wasn't Che and Castro in the woods with guns, but they had their guitars instead of guns, and they really were part of this revolution. They were guerrillas with their little factions all over, trying to shake up the establishment. They were all,
and the world is so much better because of it.
It's so much better because of it to me and to you. But then again, a lot of people may look at me and you, especially you, and say, "Oi."
Everybody looks at me and go, oi. Speaking of oi, we have to have the elephant in the room. I made a joke about it before, but it's not really a joke. I mean, how do you counter, every time you do a press thing or wherever the movie goes, there's going to be that thing of, what about the Lilith article about Reb Shlomo? What about the allegations? Not that he's a Jeffrey Epstein, not even that he's a Harvey Weinstein, but that he was inappropriate in certain ways with young women who were not of an appropriate age. Go.
Well, that I haven't been able to find, and I've done real research. I haven't been able to see anything specific or have anyone tell me anything about something about inappropriate with women their age. I mean, sometimes there are articles. I mean, there was one mention, I think, of that Lilith article where a rabbi who never met Shlomo, and he was quoted in this Lilith article. Lilith, by the way, is a mythological character, was supposed to be the first evil wife of Shlomo, of Adam, or
she's not mythological. She was on Cheers. Or no, it was
Cheers. Well, that's so funny. You were great. But there was, and I'll quote this. I mean, Shlomo, by the way, would if people knew him, he had an address book with thousands of pages, and many of them. And whenever he saw a phone booth, he would start calling people. He cared about people. He met men, women, children. He would call them in the middle of the night, and he would tell them, "You're the highest of the high, most beautiful, greatest, etc." And this was his way. And there were rabbis. There's a rabbi, a young rabbi, who was quoted, and this is continuing to be quoted throughout the press when they quote something, an article from about 15 years ago. This rabbi estimated that Shlomo Carlebach had sex 78,444 times, because he said at least 3 times a day. Now, I have not been able to find anyone who really knew him and people who hung out with and dated him, that he actually was someone who fooled around. He was someone who hugged and kissed and was very loving, and whether he had relationships or not, I was told by people who really knew him, he had long-term relationships. My mother, who dated him for 4 years, on and off, and who hated him till this day, and we were not allowed to sing his song.
Oh, there's a story. How did you drop that in until...
My mother guilt-tripped me for the first 5 years of the show, that I could write a show about such a man and such a schmutz.
Why did she hate him so he was? Why else?
So I finally she came to the show and she said, you know, you really talked about his life, and I understand who he was and the whole context of things. And I asked her, listen, you knew him, and you knew him well for years, and you were all over with him. You know, what about these stories about predatorial, you know? She looked at me like this, and this is my mother, who's never let go of an ounce of pain. I say this with love. I love her. She calls me 23 times a day. But if someone, even till this day, my father died last year, she'll still give me about what he was, you know? And he was a nice guy. So I'm giving that as a context. You know, we could talk about, I love my mother, and she's, but she doesn't mince her words when she has a certain feeling about someone. She looked at me, predatorial? Never. Shlomo was a puppy boy. He would never hurt somebody. If he was aware of that he was in any way doing something that made someone feel uncomfortable, never, ever, ever. And so many people say this. And when I have interviewed people, they've just said to me over and over again, yeah.
Oh no! Wait. Hashem has stopped your microphone. You are suddenly mute. I'm not kidding. This is not a joke. You have suddenly gone mutastic here. Oh my gosh. Danny, can you say something? No. You're like Moses now before Pharaoh, before Aaron told him, hey, look, you can talk. You're not stuttering there. Oh my God. Uh-oh. You need Fathom Events to help with our Zoom thing here. How we doing? Hello? Oy. No. And we can't really, we kind of have to put this, because we're coming up on time anyway. But, we've been chatting. Oh, he's connecting. Hello? Oh, you gotta unmute. Let's see if you can unmute yourself. Let's see, unmute. Hit your unmute button. Shalom, Danny.
Here I am.
Welcome back, Mazel Miklik. So please finish up that because that's getting really bad. I want to know what your mother then had against. So if it wasn't that, what's her grudge?
Well, this is something interesting to know, and I remember as a young child, my mother we were from the early Balei Tshuva, from the few Balei Tshuva in 1970 in Borough Park, and she joined a seminary for women. She was in her 30s, late 30s, early 30s. And the rabbi said, let me explain to you what Shlomo Carlebach is. I had actually, in the original production, had a scene like this in a character. You have a duck. A duck was born, never seen water in its life, walking around the forest looking for water, comes upon a puddle of mud, jumps into the mud, starts singing, dancing. I found water, and it's full of mud. It's just mud. Bug continues to walk. Some other bigger duck finds him and pulls him out of the mud, takes him to a beautiful lake. Oh, he's in the beautiful water. Now he knows what water is. Shlomo Carlebach, he said, and these rabbis would say, was like the puddle of mud. There may be some water inside, but it's mud. Schmutz. You don't have a mechitza. There's all sorts of people who, you don't have to learn Shulchan Aruch in order to walk in the door. If you don't wear a yarmulke, you still get a hug. And it was really, there were no borders, there were no boundaries. And it was at a time, really, where Judaism and Orthodox Judaism was really fortifying itself. And it was very, very suspect. Even Hasidim amongst their groups, who was less stringent, who was not stringent, they were very, very concerned with the fortification and the segregation and the insulation of Jewish practice from the world and from colleges and from all these, the rock and roll generation. And, Shlomo Carlebach brought in the
Your mom was worried about this. So she was worried that not your father, that Shlomo was too much like letting the bad influence in, the Goyish influence in, when she was more conservative in terms. Is that?
I think it's more of the kind of questions you get today, like how could you even tell someone's story or sing someone's songs if he would do such a thing? I mean, it's part of, there must be something subversive and unhealthy about it, or spiritually tainted, And this was the attitude people had. Like now the truth is, I've never heard anything about Shlomo Carlebach personally, as someone who's worked in the rock and roll business all over the world. Anything that I've heard, even close to any of the artists that I've personally worked with, or John F. Kennedy or Frank Sinatra or any other rock star, certainly in the '60s.
But that's why I'm asking. I'm saying,
I haven't heard anything, but I do think it's important that if someone brings this up, it's so important for a journalist. This is a 20-year-old article. I'd like to find out why the New York Times, in an article that they interviewed me before the Broadway show, and I said, as far as I know, Shlomo was a puppy, not a predator. And
right.
I don't think.
All I was trying to ask is,
why hasn't anyone done a proper investigative journalism, a work of proper investigative journalism, minimal, rather than a popular somehow destruction of Shlomo, someone who died many, many years ago, but also the idea of creating a taboo of his place or his contribution, and what you could say his children in this world. And I think that if you can't bring a person to trial, I think someone should do a thorough investigation. This show is not a celebration of Shlomo Carlebach. It's a celebration of what Shlomo Carlebach and Nina Simone means to our generation. It really is a story about the revival of the Jewish spirit and experience in the aftermath of the Holocaust, and what was discovered from the film and the Black audiences is this is the first story that is out there which is about Black empowerment. This is not about what the Jews did for the Black people. And you hear this sometimes, not from Jews who were involved with the civil rights movement, but Jews who were not involved, and they see that there's some incidents or hate speech from a Black person, and they say, after what we did for them. And
I say that. Even I say that, yes, all the time.
Yesterday, I spoke to Susanna Heschel. She called me. I was so fortunate. And we marched together in Selma, Alabama last year with the Torah and the King family. And she said to me, she hates when people say that because we didn't do anything for them. This is a friendship. We did for each other. We were friends and we were allies. And this is a story of how the Jewish culture till today and Jewish practice, it's the only unifying force of the Jewish revival and Jewish expression, that people from every denomination of Judaism can pray together or pray separately with this same experience. And it is very much influenced and helped shape by this turning point of his life, by Nina Simone specifically, that relationship. And Shlomo, I met him the 2 days before he passed away. We had a long conversation. And he said to me again, if you want to learn how to pray like a Jew, go to a Black church. Brother, there isn't a Black church in this city I haven't been to. He would go to a Black church every time he went to a city that had a Black church on a Sunday morning. He'd disappear, go to the church, and come back.
Oh, I go for the waffles, quite honestly. But we've been talking with Daniel Wise here in the Daverhood. So let me tell you one more time, but I have one last question to ask him. But go see Soul Doctor this Tuesday evening at a theater, truly a theater quite near you. So you're going to be either going to Pick a state, pick a city, pick a, as he said, a little bitty tiny bird in Alaska. There will be a place that you can go to fairly easily to see and hear in quadrostereophonic supersonic sound Soul Doctor, the musical movie event that is happening. Go to Fathom Events and look up, put in your zip code, and you can find where to see Soul Doctor. So my last question for you, Daniel, is do you have a favorite Shlomo Carlebach song? Did you hear the question? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I have to say that his song Mizmor LeDavid, which has different words. If there is one song that I feel like is his Mozart, it has that angelic quality that, for me, it's my personal taste. Is Mizmor LeDavid. Let's go.
You can do a little bit more, and then we'll cut you off then.
ינחני במגלי צדק למען שמו גם כי אלה בגץ המוות לא ירא רע כי אתה עמדי שבטך. I want everyone to sing along with me and keep singing.
I'm doing like the Lefkowitz Rebbe used to do at the Fabrengans, where he's pounding on the table when they're singing that. That's going to be on Taylor Swift's next album. I don't know if you knew this. But Daniel Wise, it has been absolutely delightful. Thank you for your openness, your honesty, your Jewishness. I wish you much luck with the continued success and long life to Soul Doctor and to you, and shalom to you.
Shalom, blessing, my dear brother. And thank you for the joy. Keep spreading that smile. My God, you have a magic. You have your smile is a Soul Doctor.
Yes, thank you.
Really, you have a healing smile. You should sell it. You shouldn't give it for free. You should take insurance. You should take insurance for it.
Give me $5, I'll smile again. Until then, I won't. No, I'm kidding. Thank you.
Shabbos, brother.
Good Shabbos to you, and shalom. And good Shabbos to all of you, too. Yes, and good Saturday morning to you. Here, live, we're back live on this Saturday, June 10th, 2023, with the 898th episode of the Dave's Gone By Facebook Podcastio Programmio of the Stream with me, Dave Lefkowitz. And yes, we were going to call the episode Wise Guy or Wise Guys, because that was Daniel Wise, the director of Soul Doctor. But it is our special show. This is our 18th annual Total Theater Broadway special, devoted to Broadway theater, to the season. Now, the season ended a few weeks ago, but the Tony Awards are tomorrow night, Sunday, June 11th. You can watch them on CBS, or you can, if you can spend a few $100s for a ticket, you can go up to Washington Heights and watch it live and get your tickets. But one of the nice things that we do on our Tony specials is that we talk to theater critics, friends of mine, colleagues of mine for many years. They come here, and in past years we would give them a category, and they talk about a specific category. We're being more general this time, and we're just asking a lot of the critics, hey, what did you love this year? What deserved the nominations that it got? So joining us in the Daverhood at 11:15 Eastern Time on this Saturday on our special is, his name is not Brian Lipton Zumi, it's Brian Scott Lipton, who has been writing about the theater for a couple of decades now. I've been so lazy this week, I don't even have his credentials. We're going to literally ask him where he's writing for now. As soon as he pops on, I've admitted him into the Daverhood. So while we're waiting, I'll remind you that you can watch our archives at davesgoneby.com, DAVESGONEBY, davesgoneby.com. Our very first episode is there. Our dozens of episodes, hundreds of episodes are there as well. You can watch them at any time. But now we are watching Brian Scott Lipton. Good morning, Brian. I need you to unmute your... There we go. How you doing, Brian?
Good. How are you? Thank you for having me, Dave.
Oh, you're great. You kind of gave me the idea to even do a special again this year.
Good.
Wasn't even going to do it. Now, here we are. How you been? First of all, how are you? How was your year?
It was a year. It was a year.
Okay, you're feeling well? Things are decent?
Yeah, I'm fine. Thank you.
Good. So.
It was a busy year.
Where are you writing for these days?
I am the chief theater critic for citytour.com. That is my main writing source.
Mm-hmm.
I do some profiles for theatermania.com where I was editor-in-chief. Occasionally you'll see me on theaterpizzazz.com. I do celebrity interviews for Connecticut Voice. And I vote for pretty much every theater award ever known to man. So including two new ones this year. So
what are a couple of the recent celebs that you've interviewed for Connecticut Voice?
Well, that's not always that's actually not always theater. So
okay, well, I'm just curious if people want to read your writing, like who? Yeah,
I just my current issue has an interview with Chasten Buttigieg, Pete Buttigieg's husband, who has the memoir out. He was a wonderful interview. So I urge people to read that if you go to Connecticut Voice.
Sure.
Theater Mania, I did Elizabeth McGovern recently for a play she did in LA, and that was really fun. It's always fun. I mean, what I love about the interviewing is I get to talk to people who are really old friends who I've known. I've done this business for 35 years. And sometimes I get to meet people I've never met before but really admire. And that's the best part, other than actually going to the theater, which is what I do, 100-something nights a year.
So let me ask you, Brian Scott Lipton, even apart from the categories and the nominees themselves, what are a couple of the shows this year on or even off Broadway that you went, wow, this is the best of the year?
Sure. And although they are nominated, and some not. So musically, I was really blown away by the new revival of Parade, which I was lucky enough to see first at City Center as part of Encore, and now currently on Broadway at the Jacobs Theater. And I think this has just been a spectacular reinvention by director Michael Arden and the entire company of Jason Robert Brown's 1999 musical, which I saw the first time at Lincoln Center, about the lynching of Leo Frank in Atlanta in 1913, who was a Jew unjustly accused of killing a young non-Jewish woman. It's incredibly timely, of course, first of all, but it's an extraordinary cast led by Ben Platt and Michaela Diamond, and you really just feel what happened in that time period, and you're almost a little scared in the sense that it's not too far from what could happen here. So
you felt that even more in the revival than you did whatever it was, 15, 20 years? Well,
yeah, I think we were in a different climate. Maybe we weren't as aware or concerned of anti-Semitism back then. And I just think Michael staged it so smartly. Very simply, it's a very simple set, basically, really allowing us to focus on the story and the characters. And so that definitely was at the top of the year. And I guess, on the equitable side of the equation, the play category also dealing with anti-Semitism was Tom Stoppard's Leopoldstadt, which is still on view till July 2nd at the Longacre Theater, which traces about a little less than 100 years in the life of the Vienna Jewish family, through very happy times when there was the belief that Vienna and Austria was going to be the center of the world, Jews and non-Jews alike, through the Holocaust, obviously, and the aftermath of the Holocaust, and trying to live with the guilt. And as you may know, it's based on Mr. Stoppard's actual own life, who was unaware. Actually, he changed the time period. I mean, this play only ends in the 50s, but he was unaware that he was Jewish till the 1990s.
Wow, I did not realize that.
Yes, making it short, and the play covers this with a character that's called Leo, who is the standard for Mr. Stoppard. stand-in. He was whisked out of Austria shortly after he was born. His mother married an English journalist. Eventually, well, in the play, it's an English journalist, but she did marry somebody English, and eventually they ended up in England. He took his stepfather's name. He was actually adopted, raised as a true English gentleman in a way, and was never told that he had any Jewish blood. And it came out very accidentally when he went to make an appearance somewhere, and one of his cousins, who had great knowledge of the family tree and was tracking this, saw the announcement and confronted him in a way and said, you know, don't you know who you are? And this is the conclusion of the play, and it's heart stopping. And again, great cast. And that last scene is anchored by Brandon Uranowitz, who I think there is no doubt in my mind will win Best Featured Actor in a Tony.
It's not only heart stopping, it's heart stoppered.
It is heart stoppered.
Thank you. One more. Give us one more show that you.
Well, I think, and the other really best play I saw, unfortunately, isn't playing anymore. It was an off-Broadway production of Bruce Norris's Downstate, which is an incredibly difficult, admittedly, play about sex offenders and how we treat them in society. But it won the New York Drama Critics Circle Award for Best Play, actually beating Leopoldstadt, which won Best Foreign Play. It is an organization that I think is the best of the best. I am a member, although I do not vote. And it was just directed by Pam McKinnon, an incredible production, perhaps in a different climate. We would have moved it to Broadway, but I wouldn't be the producer trying to sell this to a mass audience. So I'm very understanding of the fact that, yeah, maybe that wasn't an easy decision, but I'm very blessed to have seen it.
Well, what they need to do is just turn it into a musical, like Perv! Exclamation.
Yeah, not a good idea.
Because Andrew Weber hasn't had,
But as we've proven, anything can be a musical. I mean, that sort of goes to the fact to another of this year's highlights, which of course is the revival of Sweeney Todd. And, you know, if you think about it, the story of a murderous barber who turns his victims into food for meat pies wouldn't exactly sing in most people's hands. But it certainly sings in Stephen Sondheim's hands, and it certainly sings under the voices of Josh Groban and Annalee Ashford, who are giving extraordinary performances. As I said to Annalee the other night, I've literally seen, I don't know what this says about me, but I counted, I've actually seen 11 productions of Sweeney in my lifetime, both the original, starting with the original, and that's both stage and film to tape. But I have literally seen 11 performances and 11 different people do it. And it's remarkable how every single actor manages to find something different and to make each of those two pivotal parts their own. In Annalee's case, she may be the funniest Mrs. Lovett you'll ever see. She is a brilliant comic actress, and they really let her gifts go wild there. But she also gets to the heart of it, and she makes a really believable woman who's trying to create a family that she either never had or briefly had. You know, sometimes people are, you know, fans get crazy, and so a lot of people argue about the background of Sweeney and, you know.
What?
I mean, how, you know, she's actually in real life younger than Josh. Angela Lansbury was actually considerably older than Len Cariou, and most people think of Mrs. Lovett as a character who's much older than Sweeney Todd. But I actually read the script for this again, and they can be the same age, it doesn't really matter. And so I think here her sort of lust for Sweeney Todd and her desire to really create a family with him is totally legitimate.
Oh, cool. Yeah. All right. We're talking, by the way, with Brian Scott Lipton, whom you can read in citytour.com. And it's CITITOUR.com. CITITOUR.com. Plus, he writes also still for Theater Mania. He'll write for Connecticut. What was it?
Connecticut Voice. It's a quarterly magazine.
Connecticut Voice and Theater Pizzazz has some of his articles as well. So what are you, my last question for you, Brian, what are you looking for or forward to in the upcoming season? Is there anything on your radar like, ooh, that sounds good?
Well, honestly, Dave, we haven't been told too much about the upcoming season. For whatever reason, we have fewer, I think, announcements coming up. And we have a summer season. I mean, we actually have 8 openings on Broadway this summer, which I think is a record in the 35 years I've done this. So 2 things I will say. Obviously, one has to feel some excitement over the musical Back to the Future, because if you're a certain age, like me, you're going to have a certain amount of nostalgia for that great film with Michael J. Fox. And this is supposed to be technologically one of the most superior things to ever arrive on Broadway. I believe it's got about a $25 million capitalization. I know it's a lot of money, and
it's not Spider-Man.
They're charging a lot of money. So that should be fun. And I'm certainly excited about getting what, in my case, luckily gets to be the 3rd chance, going back to Sondheim. Yes, I am a Sondheim freak, of seeing Merrily We Roll Along, the new revival, directed by Maria Friedman and starring the amazing Jonathan Groff, Lindsay Mendez, and Daniel Radcliffe. Not to give Mr. Radcliffe 3rd billing, but that's kind of what I got. They are extraordinary. I was lucky enough to see this production twice at New York Theater Workshop last fall. It's a show that I always said, great score, terrible book. It will never work. It will never move me. And for the first time, it really did.
Wow.
Partially, I mean, their talents have a lot to do with it. I think Maria's concept. It feels so much more human and in the right scale. It'll be a very tough ticket. It's a limited run at the Hudson Theater, I think 16 weeks. And the prices will be very expensive. It's something we should talk about. I mean, we don't have a lot of time, but Broadway has gotten insanely expensive. I don't deny that. I'm very lucky with what I do. And I'm very careful then to say, you should go spend your money. But I think if you love these performers, if you love Sondheim, spend money.
Well, I haven't looked at a Broadway box, when I've gone into the theater. It's been a few months for me now.
$200-300 is the norm.
How much?
$200 to $300 a ticket is the norm.
I'm sorry, that's just nuts.
From the box office. And so obviously when people ask, I think about that very closely.
How much?
And one thing I would say, you only have a few weeks left. If you have the money, I always say, if you have the money, it is only theater. Spend it if you can to see Jodie Comer in Prima Facie, who is my pick for Best Actress in a play for tomorrow night, and whose performance may be one of the single, if not the single most extraordinary thing I've ever seen in 35 years.
Just and it's a legal thing. It's about what?
The 90-minute play in which she plays a lawyer who first defends victims of sexual assault, and then the tables turn when she herself becomes a victim of sexual assault.
She defends the victims of sexual, or she defends the perpetrators?
I'm sorry, she defends the assaulters, I guess.
Right, yeah.
I want to call them that.
Well, the accused, and then
she is the defense attorney, and then of course her feelings change when she becomes a victim. It's a play by Susie Miller. It has a lot to say. She's a lawyer. I'm a lawyer. Jodie plays a lawyer. I think it has a lot to say about the legal system, although it's the British legal system. But Jodie's performance, just physically, technically, in every sense, is really, what the word tour de force were created for. And considering it is her first play ever that she's ever done. She did it in London, so we are not getting the first iteration. But she has no formal stage training. She has never done a play before Prima Facie. And my mouth was just left agape at the end of this.
It's like
tickets are very scarce, so I tell people, and I think you get a lot more probably from being up close. So if you can afford it, it's only here through the mid-July, take a chance on it. I think you won't be disappointed. There's so much to talk about. But there are a lot of tough races tomorrow. Jessica Chastain could easily take the crown from her. Her work in A Doll's House was great. And she's certainly been campaigning in a way for it. I don't think we have a lot of sure things tomorrow night. I've never felt sort of less secure in a ballot that I've made. I mean, I'm both a Tony voter and a pretty well-known Tony predictor. You can find those if you like on goldderby.com. I am sort of the reigning champion. Well, I may not have won last. No, I did win last year. I've never felt less secure in what I've chosen because everything is so close.
Wow.
So much good stuff and so many, I have to say it's very apples and oranges this year. I said to one of the nominees who I saw this week that
so many things that, how can you compare this to this?
Yeah, I think we're being asked to compare people, plays, musicals, whatever, that just do very different things. And so I do want to stress that no matter who I voted for or who I've predicted for, I really more than ever dislike having to use the term the best. You were all in so many categories, you were all the best. The 5 best actor in a play categories, I promise you, Sean Hayes, Stephen McKinley Henderson, Corey Hawkins, Yal Abdin Mattoon, you are all the best. Having to say one of you is the best of the best, that's really hard.
Well, Brian, you are one of the best. We've got to let you go.
Thank
You will have given us a city tour de force. Brian Scott Lipton, enjoy the Tonys tomorrow. Thank you so much for being
I will be enjoying them from the comfort of my home, as I imagine you will. We hope everything goes well. The United Palace Theater in Washington Heights, it's the first time that venue is being used for these awards. But yeah, I'm not going up there.
Fair enough. But thank you again, Brian.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much, man.
Bye.
We are here on Dave's Gone By. It's a little after 11 o'clock. We have our next guest in the Daverhood. And you know this fella. He's been a regular on the show, playing our Today Yesterday quiz, as well as appearing on our annual Tony specials. This is our 18th Tony special, live on this Saturday morning, June 10th, 2023. And of course, we know that background. We know that fella who's walking slowly away from the camera so he can
I'm just trying to adjust the lighting.
Yeah. How are you, David Sheward?
Okay, I think I'll go. That's better.
That's good. That's very good. How you doing?
All right, how are you?
I'm great. We're doing our Tony show. So, let's remind people. We say it every week. I'm so used to it. But David Sheward, he has his blog. It's called The David Desk. And he writes theater reviews for TheaterLife.com, CulturalDaily.com, and we can also say now that your reviews are on Total Theater.
Yes.
I'm very proud to have David's reviews there as well. So, David Sheward.
Good morning.
Good morning to you. A lot of people are saying that this past year was a really good one for Broadway. Yes, it was. Yes.
Well, because just the quality of the productions were so full of depth, and a lot of the plays were very interesting. We had a lot of diversity, a lot of different voices on Broadway. What's interesting was a lot of the shows were transfers from off-Broadway and had already won. I think we had like 3 Pulitzer Prize winning plays from previous seasons that had been off-Broadway and transferred to Broadway. Fat Ham, Between Riverside and Crazy, and Cost of Living, all had won the Pulitzer Prize when they were off-Broadway.
So that's a big ringing endorsement again for the off-Broadway world. Now, I did ask, and instead of doing our usual category thing, I asked you to think of 2 or 3 of your favorite shows of the season.
Okay.
As well as any real favorite moments or performances or design. So, David Sheward, tell us, what did you love in 2022-23?
Oh, there were lots of things. It's hard to narrow it down. I really loved the revival of Into the Woods. My one piece of Tony swag is the cow.
That's so cool.
All the Tony voters got a little carved model version of the cow from the puppet of the cow.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Into the Woods.
It's an intentionally emaciated cow. That's kind of the
yes. That's why it looks like that.
Sell it.
I really enjoyed the Lear de Bossonet's revival, her staging of Into the Woods. It was originally encores, so it was very basic and very spare, but she very cleverly used a lot of those elements to bring up this fairy tale to life, very, very kind of story theater-ish. And interestingly, my favorite performance in that was by Julia Lester, who played Little Red Riding Hood, who was nominated for Best Featured Actress in a Musical. I thought she was just brilliant in that she had the ferociousness of the character. The Little Red Riding Hood in this version is very tough and she's like a warrior, and she proudly wears the wolf skin after having killed after the wolf has been killed, and a lot of the humor of it is that she's this, she's ferociously hungry when she goes to see the baker, and there's a lot of humor in that. But Julia Lester also recognized that she's a little girl. And when the giant in the second act sort of terrorizes the community and kills her mother, she's very vulnerable. So she showed all those different aspects of the character. So I really enjoyed her performance.
Are you a Sondheim fanatic? I know that Brian Lipton, who we just had on the show, absolutely fully declares himself as. I'm a huge Sondheim fan too. Where are you in the like?
Oh, I'm a huge Sondheim fan also. I don't know if I'd say if I'm a fanatic. I enjoy everything he's written in his whole long career, and I'm looking forward to the production of the last Sondheim musical. Here We Are, I think it's called. It's going to be off Broadway in the fall at the Shed. So yes, I am. I would say, I am a Sondheim fanatic. I'll say I'm a huge fan. A huge fan.
Where do you stand on the latest iteration of Sweeney Todd? Because you must have seen a bunch of them. I know you have other things that you want to, but Brian Scott Lipton was saying that he delved a lot into Sweeney. So I want to see what your thoughts are on the new Sweeney.
Oh, I liked it. I liked it very much. Also, that's interesting. 2 Sondheim shows this season.
Right.
It was. I thought it was. It was very good, very dark, appropriately. I loved the way Thomas Kail, the director, used the chorus. And some people thought the choreography was too busy. It was too much, but I didn't think so at all. I thought it gave a lot of life to it. It sort of, they acted as a Greek chorus, backing up what was going on, and they were very. All the characters were very real within the chorus, and it added an extra oomph to the production. So I really enjoyed. I enjoyed it. I thought the direction was brilliant. It was very spare. It wasn't like huge like the original one by Harold Prince. There were a lot of people saying, "Oh, it's restored to its original size." In that it's in a Broadway house. It had a full orchestra. But it wasn't. It wasn't like this. It wasn't like a huge production. It was kind of like a not as intimate as Doyle's production with Patti LuPone and Michael Cerveris, without the conceit of them being inside a madhouse. But it really had a lot of very fine elements in it. And I thought Josh Groban was fine, and I thought Annalee Ashford was just brilliant.
Yeah, she's getting some wonderful. She might win tomorrow. We don't know. What are one or two more of the things that you loved this past Broadway season, David Sheward?
I loved Tom Stoppard's Leopoldstadt, which is his play about, and I forget how many Tonys he's won. I think it's 4. Maybe this will be 5. I think he's a shoo-in for best play. I really I thought it was a very powerful and subtle production about what happens to one Jewish Viennese family throughout from the turn of the 19th century into the 20th, into the rise of Nazism and rampant anti-Semitism, blatant anti-Semitism up until the 1950s, paralleling Topper's own experience when he was a boy in Czechoslovakia and having to flee Hitler, growing up in the Far East and then India, and then his mother remarrying a British man and him becoming more British than the British. So it was a really, and like, it was wonderful to see a play with like a straight play, a non-musical play with a cast of like 25 people playing all sorts of different roles, and a really broad, sweeping epic. And it was very refreshing to see that when, because of economics, most of the time, most Broadway shows have like 4-character Broadway plays as opposed to musicals.
I mean, those are $200 a ticket now.
Yeah, have like 4 characters or 5 characters, and it's one set, and it's a sort of a contained piece of action, or 2 characters like Summer 1976. So Leopoldstadt was one of my favorites. For musicals, Kimberly Akimbo, I hope that gets Best Musical. I think it will. I'd seen it off Broadway at the Atlantic Theater Company, and it's a really clever, funny, quirky, offbeat, strange, wonderful, and touching musical about a girl who has this rare disease where she ages more than I think like 10 years for every or year of her own life or something like that, some ratio like that. And Victoria Clark is really quite brilliant and in the lead role, and I hope she wins her second. Yeah, I think this is her second Tony for this.
You're literally echoing. We had Eva Heinemann on earlier in the show, and she was a big Kimberly Akimbo fan. Like Victoria Clark was amazing. So,
yes, yeah.
Let me ask you, David Sheward. You also see some quite a bit of off Broadway as well. What was your favorite off Broadway show of the year, or one of?
Oh, off Broadway. Well, I enjoyed Irish Repertory Theater's revival of Endgame with Bill Irwin and John Douglas Thompson, which was really quite charming. My favorite, my favorite off-Broadway play was Bruce Norris's Downstate, which was at Playwrights Horizons and won the New York Drama Critics Circle Award for Best Play over Leopoldstadt. Leopoldstadt won Best Foreign Play, and I think that's the first time Stopper didn't win the top prize. He got like the foreign play prize. It's about this group home where convicted sex offenders have to stay as a part of their parole. And it didn't ask us to sympathize with them. It just asked us to understand them, that they are human beings and what they have to go through. And the action sets in motion when one of the residents of the home receives a visit from a man who he had abused when he was much younger. So it's the confrontation between them and all the other people in the house, and it's really, really quite brilliant.
And I've got to say, here you're also echoing what Brian Scott Lipton said. He said it was a marvelous play, probably his favorite of the year. But do you think that it could make the leap to Broadway, or just no way they could not?
I don't know. It would be a very difficult play to bring to Broadway, but you never know. Possibly. I mean, if it hasn't happened already, I don't know when it. But it did win. But it did win the award, so that might push behind it.
Yeah, it's just going to be tough to get like the Girl Scout troops.
Yeah, yeah. I think it would be a very difficult sell. Bruce Norris has had success previously on Broadway with Clybourne Park, and he's a really amazing former. He doesn't act very much anymore. A former actor who turned to playwriting, and all of his works they're like so clever and self-contained and really well constructed. And he's one of our better playwrights, and I think he needs more. I think he deserves more. So those are my favorites. Yes.
Well, David Sheward is one of our favorite people here in the Daverhood. Of course, you're going to want to read his reviews in culturaldaily.com, theaterlife.com, and of course, TOTALTHEATER.com, plus the David Desk. Let me ask you, David Sheward, how are you going to watch the Tonys? You're going to be home? Are you going to?
Give me 1 second. Let me just. Sorry. Okay. I will be at home. I will be watching the pre-show on Pluto TV. I figured that out. And I'll just be at home watching them and maybe tweeting my thoughts.
Cool. And tweeting them on where? The David Desk?
On my Facebook and my Twitter, and maybe I'll write something up for the David Desk.
That'd be great. Well, David Sheward, always great to see you. Of course, you'll be back in the Daverhood many times in the year to come, playing our trivia quiz and talking theater. It is always a pleasure to have David Sheward in the Daverhood.
Thank you.
Enjoy the Tonys. Have a great
happy Tony Award Day.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
David Sheward here on Dave's Gone By and our special Tony and Broadway show. So it's about a quarter after. So sorry, just this breathing thing. And this was long before the particles in the air and the particulates and the reticulates, whatever those are, and then things that we've been having all over the Northeast. We had finally some rain last night, just for like 10 minutes. It literally has not rained here in about 3 or 4 weeks. And then, Let me turn this around because we're just a little too much brightness there. That's better. Suddenly full came down, and because everything is parched and all the lawns are completely brown gray. And I've been doing a little bit of watering outside, but it's never enough when you have sunny days. Thank goodness we haven't had a real heat wave. But just when the rain came down and then the skies finally, which had been smoky, gauzy, not orange like it was in Manhattan, but still air quality here for the past 2 days was not something you wanted to be inhaling. Even though wherever you are, you're inhaling air, unless you're sucked onto an oxygen tank with a mask. You're inhaling air, but still, it was kind of nice last night. How did I get into this? How did I get on this? Well, just the fact that here we are. It's Saturday morning, June 10th, 2023, and we're in the Daverhood. I'm in Maryland. I'm not in New York. Not going to be at the Tonys, and haven't seen most of the shows, but we do every year our Total Theater Tony special, and we've got more guests coming up. We've got Ed Rubin, and also hopefully Leslie Hoban Blake is supposed to be logging on now, but it's Leslie. So we may or may not see her, which is fine because we do have quiz questions for you. So these are designed for, I wouldn't say the complete theater layperson, but they're not like, you don't have to be a David Sheward or Brian Scott Lipton or an Eva Heinemann to kind of take this quiz. Maybe. And if you were listening to, the interviews we've had so far, you might even get some of these from what people said, if you remember. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is our Tony, Tony Awards quiz for the 2022-23 Tony season. Let's see how you do. All right, question 1. It's a multiple choice question. Tom Stoppard's Leopoldstadt, which a bunch of our folks have been talking about, is the likely favorite for this year's Best Play Tony. Which of these is not another play by Tom Stoppard? A. Jumpers. B. Lettuce and Lovage. C. Travesties. D. Indian Ink. Okay. All of these are plays by Tom Stoppard except one, which is not. I'll read them again. A. Jumpers. B. Lettuce and Lovage. C. Travesties. Or D. Indian Ink. And the answer is, you can even, if you're on Facebook, feel free to type in and play along. I've got a few of these. So write your answers down. and it has to be in ballpoint. No pencil, please. Well, the author of Leopoldstadt is also the author of Jumpers, Travesties, and Indian Ink. In fact, David Sheward mentioned that he was raised partially in India. So the outlier here is the comedy Lettuce and Lovage was written by Peter Schaffer, the guy who also wrote Amadeus. So that was question number 1. Now we have question number 2 in our Tony quiz here on Dave's Gone By. The new musical, New York, New York, takes its title and plot from a 1977 romantic drama film by the same name. Who directed it, and who were the 2 stars? So it'd actually be a movie fan here, and not even a Broadway fan, if you can think of this one. The new musical, New York, New York, that is up for Best Musical. Well, the title of the show and the plot of the show, it's basically a movie turned musical, is taken from a 1977 romantic drama film of the same name. Who directed the film, and who were the 2 stars? Dum bum 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 dum bum 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 bum. I'll give you time to write it down while I remind you that davesgoneby.com is the place to catch all our archives. davesgoneby.com. They're completely free. Hundreds, actually thousands of hours of the program. Whether it was audio for the first 15 years of the show or these video shows we've been doing, just go to davesgoneby.com. Tons of older shows, including our previous Tony Award specials. You can watch them there. Okay, the question was, the new musical, New York, New York, takes its title and plot from a 1977 romantic drama film of the same name. Who was the director? The director was Martin Scorsese, not one of his better known films and not one of his better reviewed films at the time. And the stars, you know these folks, Robert De Niro and Liza Minnelli. So that was the answer to question number 2 of our Tony Awards quiz. Let's do another one. For the first time since 1972, the sign in Sidney Brustein's Window is being revived on Broadway. Now, I may have gotten this wrong because this may have opened after the Tony deadline. It opened pretty recently, so forgive me if this doesn't fall into this season's Tony Awards. It certainly falls. It is certainly playing on Broadway right now. For the first time since 1972, the sign in Sidney Brustein's Window is being revived on Broadway. The author, Lorraine Hansberry, is best known for her first play, whose title comes from a Langston Hughes poem. Can you name it? So take a moment. Let me see if revival of play. It is, by the way, it's up for best revival of a play. So it was this past season. I'll read the question again. For the first time since 1972, the sign in Sidney Brustein's Window is being revived on Broadway. Lorraine Hansberry wrote it. She is best known for her first play, whose title comes from a Langston Hughes poem. What was the name of her first play? Are you thinking about it? Do you think you have it? Have you written it down and posted it on our Facebook page? Well, no, it's not the Grapes of Wrath. Put some sunshine on them. It's the Raisin in the Sun, A Raisin in the Sun, classic play, which was just revived recently again, I think last year at the Public Theater, and it was done in 1959. All right, let's do one more quiz question as we're waiting for other people to take part in our Tony show. Actually, I should be checking, let me check my telephone to see what's happening, if anything. She's probably trying to log on, and then that'll push up our other stuff, but that's okay. We're cash here in the Daverhood. Fourth question in our Tony quiz. This Best Actress nominee for Ohio State Murders already has 6 Tony Awards, okay? The most of any performer ever. Name her. Dum, bum, 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 bum. So, and I can say that she is she up for Best Actress in a Play? I believe she is. Let me see our, gotta look for my notes for this one. Yes, she is. Okay, so question is, this Best Actress nominee for Ohio State Murders already has 6 Tony Awards. That is the most Tony Awards for any performer ever. I mean, people like Hal Prince, directors, and they've got more than that. But for an actor or actress, this person has the most. And can you name who that is? I can say that her Broadway shows include Carousel. She was also in a revival of Frankie and Johnny and the Clair de Lune fairly recently. And she was in Marie Christine. And the person that I am talking about is Audra McDonald, of course, beloved Audra McDonald in Ohio State Murders on Broadway. That show closed, but she is up for a Best Actress Tony this year. How you doing? We've had 4 questions so far. How you managing on our Tony quiz? We'll do a few more in a little while, but I want to get to just talking a little bit about the Tonys to give you a bit more context for those of you who are even further removed from Broadway than I've been for the past few months. Here's the deal. Tony Awards, they're happening tomorrow night, Sunday, June 11th at the United Palace Theater in Washington Heights. It's never been there. Tonys have either been at Radio City for the past few years or they've been in Broadway theaters. Now they've taken them, and again, first of all, so they can get a big, beautiful old theater, and because they want to be more inclusive, they pulled the Tonys all the way up to 175th Street to Washington Heights to United Palace Theater. Ariana DeBose is going to be hosting, and you can watch the Tonys themselves for 3 hours on CBS TV, or if you don't have cable or Rabbit Ears TV, you can watch it on Paramount Plus. Here are some of the awards that are happening. Lifetime Achievement Awards are going to John Kander and Joel Grey. The Regional Theater Tony, which is selected by the American Theater Critics Association, of which I am a part, is going to the Pasadena Playhouse out in California. And let's see, some people are winning special honors. These are not awards that are up for votes or anything. These are decided upon. Being honored for excellence include production stage manager Lisa Dawn Cave, Vicki Bailey, Victoria Bailey, the executive director of Theater Development Fund. God, come on. If you have no money and you want to see shows on and off Broadway, you need TDF. And you've known about TDF for 40 years. So Victoria Bailey is the executive director over there. And Robert Freed is a Broadway accountant. They're really trying to spread the love with the awards this year. And the Isabel Stevenson Award is going to Jerry Mitchell, director and choreographer. He did shows like Legally Blonde and Kinky Boots. He was the choreographer for the stage version musical of The Full Monty. So congratulations to them all. In terms of nominations and things, the most nominations so far, or they're not, there are going to be more, but 13 Tony nominations for the musical Some Like It Hot, based on, of course, the Billy Wilder film, rewritten, redone, and with songs added. I don't even think they have Running Wild in there, but that's got 13 nominations. And of course, musicals are more likely to get a lot more nominations than straight plays are and one-person shows for obvious reasons. Coming up, not so far behind in terms of nominations, the musical that Eva talked about, And Juliet. There it is. That one. Yes, I do have some swag that they were kind enough to send me. Shocked, the musical comedy, and New York, New York. All three of them are tied with 9 nominations, followed by Kimberly Akimbo and Sweeney Todd with 8 nominations each. Now, up for Best Play, you've got Ain't No Mo by Jordan E. Cooper, Between Riverside and Crazy, which is a Stephen Adly Gerges play, which is several years old, but didn't make it to Broadway until this year. Cost of Living, which is also Pulitzer winner, by Martina Mayock. It's one of the few shows I actually saw. Fat Ham by James I. James, and Leopoldstadt, kind of the favorite in the field, by Tom Stoppard. And then for Best Musical, you got And Juliet, like ampersand Juliet, Kimberly Akimbo, New York, New York, Shocked, and Some Like It Hot. Haven't really talked much about the revivals. Revival of a musical. You've got Into the Woods, the Sondheim show, Lerner and Lowe's Camelot, which has been very much revised. I'm not going to tell you by whom because that might come up in trivia soon. Parade, which has gotten, as you've seen, a lot of critical consensus, has been quite terrific. And then Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street. Best revival of a play? The nominees are August Wilson's The Piano Lesson, A Doll's House in a new version, adapted by Amy Herzog, it's the Ibsen play, Suzanne Laurie Parks' Top Dog, Underdog, and the aforementioned The Signing Sidney Brustein's Window by Lorraine Hansberry. So, just want to give you a basic overview. I used to take a lot more time on this in earlier episodes of Dave's Gone By, or of our Tony shows, just to say, here's the whole season. And this opened, and this opened, and this. I'm not doing it this year. Just want to give you an idea so that if you tune in tomorrow or if you read about the Tonys, you'll have I know that's the thing, and this was by whom, and you've at least heard of it, which is kind of neat. What else do I want to share with you? We're waiting for our next guest in the Daverhood because Leslie has just been AWOL, I'm afraid. So I'm hoping that we have one more guest in the Daverhood to share his thoughts on the season past. When he comes in, we'll let him in. Until he is, and until he does, we can either do, let's just do it. Shall I do trivia? No, I'll do the poems. I will. Because every week on Dave's Gone By, we've been doing a segment called the Colorado Limerick of the Damned. Now, this is a short, usually very vulgar and rude poem, because limericks tend to be. We'll get to the poems later, and we will get to the some more quiz questions later. But before then, I'm thrilled to let in our next guest of the Daverhood, the wonderfully opinionated and delightful fella. His name is Ed Rubin. He writes for Artez.com. He also writes for TotalTheater.com. We're very proud to. When I say very proud about Total Theater, it's because I'm the creator and editor-in-chief of TotalTheater.com. But you can read his reviews and sometimes his articles there too. His name is Ed Rubin. He's logging on as we speak, and we're going to welcome him to our 18th annual Total Theater Broadway special here in the Daybreak. I can't believe it takes people so long to log on to Zoom, but it does. It is when he's going through the waiting room now. Come on in, and we'll get his mic on, and be very excited to have Ed Rubin on the show. I want to remind you, if you want to write to me, davesgoneby@aol.com is the way to do that. davesgoneby@aol.com. Plus, you can always post your messages under the show on Facebook. If you're a Facebook friend, you can message me, just like anybody else on Facebook. So please keep in touch. I want to know what you thought of this show, of any episode that we do, and any suggestions that you have for future episodes of the show. davesgoneby@aol.com is the email address, or message me right on Facebook. Oh my God, I know that apartment well. Ladies and gentlemen, joining us in the Daverhood is Ed Rubin. Ed, just angle the camera down so we see more than your nose. All right, here we go. Get that telephone going. That is such the New York City life. All those, it's also the artistic and the creative life. And I just need you to unmute your mic so that we can hear you as well as see you. There we go.
Now,
Welcome, Ed. Yes, indeed. How are you, Ed Rubin?
I'm okay. I must tell you, when I anticipating this interview, my mind is boggled. First of all, I took some notes because I'm a rambler and I go all over the place. I do want to say, first of all, that this is the best New York City season within my memory.
Wow.
It's absolutely the best. I also want to be happy to report, as everybody knows, there's a wealth of Black actors, playwrights, directors, stage people gracing the cities off-Broadway, and Broadway. And I want to welcome that. It's just such a pleasure to see the diversity, and I'm waiting till they let other ethnics in, like the Asians.
Right.
There's
more than David Henry Wong, in other words.
Yeah. the Wong. I want to start with my least favorite play of the season. It's Some Like It Hot.
Oh.
I did
All
not.
right, here we go. This is why I love having Ed Rubin on the show. Some Like It Hot people love it. They and Ed Rubin, yeah, why not?
I did not like the faux contemporary PC update, the ending, etc. However, I must say that J. Harrison G. stole the show. He played the Black Queen, and he started Kinky Boots too, I think, at one point. But he's going to win a Tony, hands down. Also, I do want to say that Susan Stroman is not winning any awards, by the way, in nominations, but she should win for New York, which I loved. She was wonderful. I did not like, well, I'll tell you what I didn't like. But my three favorite plays are actually 4 or maybe 5.
Okay.
The revival of Sweeney Todd, the acting, the set, Anna Lee Ashford, she will win a Tony for the best actress in a musical. The play might win for best musical revival. I don't really know. She was wonderful. second Parade with Ben Platt and Miss, I can't even pronounce her name, Marcella Diamond.
Okay, I'm Michaela.
It's-
I've got to check that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's Michaela, but it is Michaela.
Okay.
The thing is, that could possibly win for revival of a play, because it's the third time it's been in the city, you know, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, no, Parade would not be a play. It'd be a musical. But
Oh, the musical, then it's, I don't know, who knows what they're gonna do. And Goodnight Oscar, starring Sean Hayes, was amazing. He was from Will and Grace fame, and he plays Oscar Levant. Every tick, nuance, speech pattern. He rolls around on the floor, which is always a winner. And
that's who you're doing it with, but yes.
Levant died in 1972 at age 63, and I grew up with him because he was always on the Ed Sullivan Show and this show and that show, along with Kate Smith, of course. New York, New York, I talked about the projections, and Stroman's choreography ruled the roost. I wasn't interested in anything else, but now I loved Victoria Clark and Kimberly Akimbo. Victoria is 63 and she was playing a 16-year-old with an aging disease. She was absolutely wonderful, wonderful. But it was so back next year, the beginning of the season, that they probably won't, they want to jump on. It's been around for a year. Bonnie Milligan, who plays Victoria's shady aunt, Deborah, stole the show also, and she will be nominated. Well, she is nominated for a Tony. She may win. I've never seen so many projections in plays used this year. All the plays, wonderful back projections, aiding and abetting the sets. The sets were all wonderful also, although a lot of them were constructed and looked like they were the same set. with fire escapes and God knows. I do want to put in a plug for my thoughts with, which is my next review that I'm writing, Bad Cinderella. It got the worst reviews ever. Now, however, Carolee Carmela, who plays Cinderella's stepmother, and Grace McLean, who plays the queen, they ran away with their show. They have a song called I Know You, when each one tries to knock the other one off their pedestal by saying, I know how you begun. One was a streetwalker, the other one was a commoner, who became a queen, which is Weber's nod to the current situation in England now, with what's her name? His wife, Carmela.
Camilla Parker Bowles, yeah.
I love Carmela.
Parker Bowles now.
I always loved her. I was always on her side. I never liked Princess Diana. I might add that
that's an Edism for you, right? You never like Princess Diana.
No, my God. I'm a monarchist, a royalist, and she damaged the foundation, so to speak. I might add that Lynley Janot, who played Cinderella, Black Cinderella, was nondescript. She had no talent. Well, I shouldn't say she had no talent. She tried her best, and the choreography was awful. It had a lot of naked guy dancers.
Well, you would like that, Ed. I mean, you shouldn't mind that.
It was not needed. In every drop of a hat, when they didn't know what to do, they sent on these near naked guys dancing. I might end that there's no doubt that the best play is going to be Leopoldstadt. Deservedly so. It was just wonderful.
Oh my. Yeah. So let me ask you though, because a lot of people have been talking about Leopoldstadt earlier in the show. I want to ask you, Ed, because you also see I'm assuming you see a lot of off Broadway shows.
I do.
So what was your favorite non-mainstream show of the year?
Oh, I didn't research what I'd seen. There were at least 5.
Really?
All of the Black plays were wonderful, just wonderful. The writing was wonderful. The acting was wonderful. Especially what's his name? The famous Samuel Jackson's was in a play.
Samuel L. Jackson. Well, that's still Broadway. Samuel L. Jackson was in on Broadway. Forgive me.
But I think he was off Broadway in a play too.
Oh, okay.
Well, I don't remember.
I'm literally as I'm.
I should have did my off Broadway and off Broadway.
Oh, he was in the piano lesson on Broadway, and I don't know what he was doing off Broadway. He's nominated for the piano lesson on Broadway.
Well, I don't think he should win, but the thing is, the person that I wouldn't mind seeing win is someone's son. I forgot whose son is in it.
Well, any male actor is someone's son, so you need to be a little more specific than that.
Well, there were 2 famous Black actors, Samuel Jackson and the other one.
The other one. Let's not be racist
and
about
the other one whose son was in the
Oh.
play, and it was wonderful.
My eyes are scanning as best I can, but I can only do. I don't know. Anyway. So
I could look that up in a second.
well, we've been talking with Ed Rubin, by the way. Ed Rubin, you can read him in Artes magazine.
Artes magazine, but also 5 other websites, including Total. I could be found on Total.
Total Theater, yes. TotalTheater.com.
Who starred in the piano lesson on Broadway?
Samuel L. Jackson, and it wasn't Wendell Pierce. He was in Death of a Salesman.
Danielle Brooks starred in the revival of August Wilson's Pulitzer
John David Washington.
Lights and Fog.
Okay.
In this production.
Whose son was John David Whose son is John David Washington?
Yeah, he's doing the same. I don't know who's his father or who's his.
The tenant star and former
He's
professional
Denzel Washington's son.
Oh, okay. There we go. Well, I should.
And he was wonderful.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, great. Well, it
That's
is wonderful talking with Ed Rubin here in the Daverhood on our Tony special. Ed, I want to wish you good health. I want to wish you good things for this upcoming season, and I want to thank you so much for being with us on our Tony show. Have a great one, man. Great.
Good luck. Thanks so much.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Ed Rubin on Dave's Gone By, and better late than never, as usual, we have one more guest coming into the Daverhood. She is well known to fans of the show because she usually plays our Today Yesterday quiz opposite David Sheward.
Do you think she'll be wearing the crown?
Vicky Quaggy. Well, yeah, except we're not playing the.
Yeah, but you could still wear the crown. Yeah.
Yeah. So Leslie Hoban Blake, she has co-starred with Charlie Gross on their theater review show called 2 on the Aisle for many, many years. And you can watch episodes of 2 on the Aisle and also segments of it on the YouTube channel for Charlie Gross or 2 on the Aisle. You can also watch them on MNN, Manhattan Neighborhood Network. So, Leslie is an old friend, an old friend of the show. I mean, I've known her long before I was doing even Dave's Gone By. But we've got her coming on to, again, answer these usual questions of favorite shows of the year and maybe some predictions of winners of the Tony Awards. How are you doing? I haven't really had a chance to even talk to you. Well, in the first half hour.
I'm busy. I'd like to have some food, but I know it will annoy you if I eat in here, so I can't.
Yeah, well, the show will be done in about less than half an hour, I think. So, yeah. Well, it says 11:45.
Aren't you glad I joined you?
Orange. You
help
glad?
Make your show a little more peachy.
As long as the show doesn't turn into a lemon or a flying citrus.
Or some fruit salad.
Well, no, I'm not going to make a fruits joke, guys. Anyway, that would be politically incorrect. So Leslie is, of course, trying to log in.
Okay.
No, I think I'm here. Hello.
I hear you. We don't.
Yeah, you won't see me, David.
Oh,
You won't be able to see me, David. I'm sorry. This is the
Are-
best I can do this morning.
are you feeling okay? How are you, Leslie?
Yeah, I'm feeling okay. I just overslept. I'm very sorry.
It's a quarter. What time do you go to sleep at night, Leslie? I'm not being.
David, I haven't gotten my circadian rhythms back. You're going to have to stop. You're going to have to forgive me.
All
I'm
right.
still on a 24-hour cycle, and it's the wrong cycle.
I got you. Yeah, my menstrual cycle has just been driving me.
I got you. I got you, David.
So anyway, unfortunately, we don't get to visually see Leslie, but we do get to hear her, and we get to hear Leslie talk about her favorite shows of the year. Leslie, what were they?
Well, it's interesting. I am in the minority on some of the. I'm in a vocal minority on some of the favorite shows. I had the best time at Juliet. Of all the musicals that I saw, this poor little musical Juliet was the one at which I had the best time. It was witty. I found it amusing, and I was engrossed with it the entire time.
Now, Leslie, I don't mean to interrupt you, but you call it a poor little musical. It's doing pretty well at the box office, and it's totally nominated. Yeah,
I understand. I'm just saying that I don't think it's done very well in the award category, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
And I feel bad for it because looking back over the time that I got, you have to remember that my theater going was in November and in May. Those are the 2 times of the year that I went to the theater this whole year. And I squeezed 12 plays into 9 days in May. So, it was a very, it kind of went by in a flash.
Sure.
But I as an old friend, as you always call me, as an old theater goer, I that's kind of not new for me. I used to do marathons all the time. So that part's not a bad thing. But I did get to see most of what was on Broadway and some of what was off Broadway. And that was the one that I had the best time.
And
so
yeah,
that's what you asked me, I think. So that's
yeah. What, so besides Juliet, what else did you love?
And I loved it a lot when I saw it. What was my biggest disappointment, or is that not what we're going to do?
Oh, we can do that too. It's very open. It's very, I want to hear what you think season. Yeah.
I think my biggest disappointment was Camelot, because it was a very special show to me. I did see the original. I was a wee girl. No, I wasn't either. But I mean, the point is that I saw the original.
Well, no, you were pretty young. I mean, yeah.
Well, but I saw it with Richard Burton and Julie Andrews, and who can top them? I mean, really and truly. And unfortunately, when I went to see it, Andrew Burnap was not in it. And his understudy, who had a magnificent operatic voice, also had an operatic body. He looked like an old-time tenor. Very handsome face, but a very large rest of him. And it kind of spoiled the picture. It kind of made it no contest between Arthur and Lancelot,
Because she would be like, why wouldn't she stay with Arthur, even though this
exactly. That's exactly what. But having seen Burnap and having heard him on YouTube, I realized that I did miss that, and I think that would have made it much more equal, because I think Burnap is handsome and sings well, and therefore a good opponent to Lancelot, And were I the poor Guinevere, I would have had a hard choice between the two of them. Except that I know that, well, never mind. I'll just leave it at that. But I thought Lancelot was outstanding, really and truly outstanding. I never liked, it's interesting because I never really liked, what's his name? Oh God, who played it originally? You know that. I can't think of it.
Oh, I'm
who played Lancelot originally?
Well, Robert Goulet.
Robert Goulet. It made him a star, but I always found him to be sort of oily. From Lancelot on, I never particularly liked him.
Okay.
So this Lancelot, I just thought practically had a halo. He was so wonderful.
Who else? What other shows made their mark?
Well, yeah. I was remarkably untouched by Leopoldstadt.
This is the first negative thing I've heard about Leopoldstadt all morning. Yeah.
Well, the problem was, and of course I was touched by the story, but I was not touched by the production. I found it to be too large. I know that the room was one of the, I understand the psychology of it. The room itself was one of the characters. And so the room changed as the inhabitants changed. But there was so much room for them to get around in. and it became smaller when they were huddled against Nazis, et cetera, et cetera. I just found it to be that the distance made it hard for me to be emotionally attached to it. I don't know why. You understand what I'm saying, David? Am I making
for me,
any sense at all?
that's a typical stop art thing. I couldn't get into Arcadia the 2 times I've seen it. When people
No. I got into the story. No, the difference is I got into the story immediately. It had nothing to do with it. It's a very straightforward story. It was a very straightforward story. That was not the issue. And then at the end, when they were trying to name who had died, and we know that the answer is all of them, except for one, except for the child, everybody died. They started naming names, and it was like a Russian novel. If they only put up, instead of names, they
Okay.
would do.
Leslie, I'm afraid, Leslie, unfortunately, your audio is coming in and out, and we're not really able to understand.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Is that any better?
A little better, yes.
Okay, terribly sorry about that. Anyway, so it was the
Yeah.
It's still being a problem, huh?
Yeah. Well, but
Not much.
that certainly and Juliet was your favorite show, and that overrated, at least in your mind, are Leopoldstadt and the Camelot. So that's a pretty good.
If I were reading Leopoldstadt, I would have enjoyed it more than seeing it. I guess it was the production itself and not the story. I'm trying to differentiate between the two. I know you need me to go, or was that everything?
Well, yeah, if that's everything you. Plus, if I can't hear what you're saying, then it becomes.
Oh, you still can't hear what I'm saying.
Now I hear you. Now you're fine. So, do you have any other thoughts about this past season or Broadway or the Tonys?
I felt that Parade made a statement, and I was very happy to see it. Enjoyed is not the right word. I was moved by Parade. I was moved by it the first time. I was moved by it the second time. Originally as well as this time. And I think the story of Parade is very well told. I thought this was an excellent production of Parade.
Cool.
So I guess that covers it.
Wonderful. Well, that is the parade of guests that we've had on this episode of Dave's Gone By, our Tony Show. I want to thank Leslie Hoban Blake. Remember that you can watch her in episodes of 2 on the Aisle with Charlie Gross. And Leslie, have there been any new segments or new episodes?
Yes, we actually taped 3 shows, and Charlie will be working on putting them online, both as segments and at MNN. We actually covered 9 shows. Charlie was very kind and waited for me.
And we're losing you again, Les. All right, Leslie, thank you for being with us in the Daverhood. Have a great one.
Thank you for having me. Hi, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now. Okay, let's gotta just, I guess she sort of hangs herself up. That was kind of cool. Anyway, we've got, my God, it's almost noon. We still have a little bit more to do in the Daverhood here. I'm Dave Lefkowitz. That's Joyce on the drums. Oh, yeah. That's what Broadway needs, more drum solos.
Wait, let's see.
Leslie, hang up.
You can mute her.
Or unplug or something. I can't.
We're in the waiting room.
I can't. I don't see.
Go to participants.
Okay.
Go to participants.
Got it. Here we go. Hold on one moment. There we go.
That is perfect.
Move
to waiting room.
Remove. Okay, sorry about that.
There you go.
Bye, Liz.
Okay.
I
help you,
Thank
honey.
you so much.
I'm not only a good drum player, I know how to do the zooming.
Well, let's see.
Wait.
Yeah.
Remember that? We did the defaming thing?
Well, what was it? DJ something. DJing or something like that. The word. Yeah. So, we have a bit more to do on this special episode of Dave's Gone By, including testing Joyce with 4 more questions.
Who knows nothing about theater?
Well, let's see.
Okay.
And it's also for all of you guys at home. So if you're posting before on our Facebook page or you're just playing the game at home, this is for you.
Do you have Facebook on your phone? I'll see.
Oh, yeah, you can check.
I
See,
can't do it on mine.
I'm not officially, I hope I'm not logged into Facebook because I don't want notifications or anything like that. So if I'm not, please don't.
I won't.
Cool. But if I happen to, if you can check my site,
No.
no,
I can't.
don't do it. So here's a question for you.
Yes, I'm ready.
And folks, if you were listening over the past like half hour, you know the answer to this question because one of the guests kind of mentioned it. Sean Hayes of Will and Grace fame is up for a Best Actor Tony this year.
I heard that. I don't remember.
He's in a biographical play about what? A Serbic piano-playing, mentally unstable but brilliant actor and raconteur of the 1940s and 50s.
Unicorn?
So take a moment. I won't give them time to.
You gotta give me ABC.
No, this is not a.
Oh, and Rubin just said it. Say it again slow.
Yeah, Sean Hayes.
Yeah, I know that.
Of Will and Grace fame is up for Best Actor this year. He's in a biographical play about what? A Serbic piano-playing, mentally unstable but brilliant. No, whatever that was, no.
No. Okay.
Brilliant actor and raconteur
I know
of the
it is.
1940s and 50s.
I know it is. I'll say it.
Wait, give it a couple of seconds.
I gotta say it. Is it Liberace?
Is it Liberace? No. It is.
No! Ed said it!
Ed did say it. And it's not really that well known up until they started doing this play. He's kind of forgotten in a way, even though he was in...
Anne Margaret?
It's not Anne Margaret.
No.
It's, I'll give you a clue.
Okay, give me a clue.
The initials are O-L. O-L.
I'm an idiot, David.
No,
it's
you're
like
just
you're
not
torturing me. I feel like you're torturing me here.
I'm forgetting the movie that he's in that they adapted into a Broadway musical just a few years ago. Also, for American in Paris, actually, he was in there. One of his best-known roles, Oscar Levant. Oscar Levant.
Naturally, of course.
So I told you, he was basically forgotten in a lot of ways. Didn't realize he was from Orthodox Jewish parents. Never had any idea. Yeah, honest to God.
You left.
Yeah. Now, here I'm going to give you a multiple choice.
Thank you, Lord.
Our next question is multiple choice.
Yes.
Winning a Lifetime Achievement Honor from this year's Tonys is composer John Kander, who, with co-writer Fred Ebb, made some terrific musicals like Cabaret and Chicago.
Those were the two I knew, David.
Not all their tuners were that well known, though.
Oh, no.
Of these four, only one is
real?
A Kander and Ebb show.
Okay, give it to me.
All the rest are not Kander and Ebb shows. Which of these is? A. Curtains. B. Golden Boy. C. The Day Before Spring. D. The Life.
One is...
So don't say it, because I won't give them time. Because if they're typing in. Okay. I'm not going to say yes or no yet for you. I'm going to be on tenterhooks a little bit. I'll read. Actually, answer no. But winning a lifetime.
Is it the last?
Hold on, don't say it yet. I want to give them time. No. Winning a Lifetime Achievement Honor from this year's Tony is composer. This year's Tonys, is composer John Kander, who, with co-writer Fred Ebb, of course, made some terrific musicals like Cabaret and Chicago, but not all their tuners are that well known.
I know why it's
Of these four, only one is a Kander and Ebb show. Yes. Is it A. Curtains, B. Golden Boy, C. The Day Before Spring, or D. The Life? And the answer is Joyce is saying it's Curtains.
You know why I'm picking that? Because every other show you mentioned has one-word title.
Oh.
So I'm wondering if they like to just do one-word titles, and everything else I guessed was wrong. But I think, some people have a preference in the way they title things. So maybe they're
to be fair,
one word.
Kander and Ebb did do shows like The Happy Time and Kiss of the Spider Woman.
You didn't mention those.
And the Scottsboro Boys, but they also did a show called Curtains. Rupert Holmes wrote the book on that. It was a 2006 show with David Hyde Pierson. It was pretty fun. The others included Golden Boy, which was by Adams and Strauss.
Yeah.
Lerner and Lowe, the Camelot guys, they did The Day Before
boy.
Spring in 1945. And then Cy Coleman and Becky Comden and
we
Adolph
call
Green
him
did The
Cyclops?
Life.
Can we
So,
call him-
and we know The Life because
Yeah.
we love George Burns doing Easy Money. Easy money. You just go out and take it. Easy money. Yes, classic stuff there. There are some really good songs in The Life, by the way, but that is a Cy Coleman show, not a Kander and Ebb show, as Curtains was. Okay, two more trivia questions, and then we have our Broadway Limericks of the Darned. We'll also have our friends of the Daverhood, and then we'll close up our special Tony Broadway broadcast. Camelot is up for Best Revival of a Musical this year. It is something of a controversial choice because the book for the Lerner and Lowe musical has been massively revised by this television writer wunderkind. Don't if you know the answer, don't say
Yeah,
it.
but I don't know. You know, I don't know the answer. I'm an idiot
Oh,
here.
you know this one. Revised by this television writer wunderkind who recently adapted To Kill a Mockingbird for the stage too. So don't say it if you
I
have it
don't
near.
know it.
All right.
You know.
Name him.
Is it Lin-Manuel Noriega?
That's not Lin-Manuel Noriega, no. Nor is it Unicorn. Nor is it our great friend the Grand Knish, who has been watching the
Wow,
show
look at him wearing the
diligently.
hat. He's got his
And the
viewers
bow
crown.
and everything.
Did
yeah.
Leslie? We can't even see it. Leslie might have been wearing her crown. We don't know.
Oh, I know. Anyway, Camelot is up for Best Revival of a Musical this year. It is something of a controversial choice because the book for this Lerner and Lowe musical has been massively revised by this television writer wunderkind who recently adapted To Kill a Mockingbird for the stage. Can you name him? Want to take a guess?
David Lefkowitz.
I wish. No, anybody else?
Oh.
And the answer is Aaron Sorkin. The West Wing guy, Few Good Men guy,
Yeah.
him. It's
Some
him.
people just make all the money.
Well, yeah. He's kind of talented.
Mm-hmm.
Social Network is an excellent film, too. All right, we have one more trivia question. On this Dave's Gone By episode, it's our 898th show, our 18th annual Tony Broadway special, Total Theater Broadway special, with me, Dave Lefkowitz, my wife, Joyce, on this Saturday morning, June 10th, or Saturday afternoon.
David, it's the opposite of the pits.
But I'm feeling a little fuzzy. The peach fuzz thing. Yeah. No. Hey, I'm hardcore.
You're very handsome, Papa.
Thank you. Oh, anyway. The new musical Shocked
Oh no.
has 9 Tony nominations,
That's a
including, Best Musical
That's a lot.
and the Best Book by Robert Horn is also nominated. So, Horn won the Tony in 2019 for another musical comedy, this one about a cross-dressing actor. Name that show. It is.
Hi,
Yeah,
miracles.
And
David,
if
I
you were
think-
listening earlier, one of our
David,
people mentioned
I
it.
think I'm on a roll.
What does that have to do with it? Oh!
I'm stinking.
She got it on me. The new musical Shucked has 9 Tony nominations.
What is shucked about?
Shucked, it's been
Is
aborting
it
for a few
oysters?
years.
Like shucking
No.
oysters?
No, what else do you shuck?
Inhibitions?
If you're lucky, yeah.
Crabs?
Good.
Lobster?
God forbid. But
You
what?
shuck.
No.
Corn?
Boom. They wanted to turn Hee Haw into a zany, crazy fun. They're putting the plot. I mean, but there's still the cornfield and the jokes and the nuttiness and the whatever.
That was when I watched it as a child, I was always very confused by it.
Well, because it's non sequitur. It's just like one to the other
it's
to
like
the
a
other.
lot of like a crazy segment.
It was a laugh-in for this redneck in the South population that took
But
off
they
for
had,
everybody.
like Goldie Hawn and like a lot of.
That was Laugh-In.
Oh, Laugh-In. I'm confusing.
Misty
Laugh-In.
Rowe.
Yeah, I
was-
remember the one who had what was the lady who wore the.
Minnie Pearl.
Yes, I always
And
thought-
Grandpa Jones.
I never knew why she kept the tag in her hat. That always confused me.
And the great Buck Owens and Roy Clark were the real hosts of the
I
show.
did like the singers, though. I found that the music was very nice. Yeah,
Well, it was country music before it went
yeah.
too, out there pop commercial.
Electric. It was more
Yeah.
acoustic. It was more.
It was really it was a cool. I used to watch it with my dad all the time. We enjoyed it. It was it was they were going to call it Hee Haw the musical. And then I think they stepped away from just doing 2 hours of cornfield jokes and things like that.
They wanted to switch it.
They wanted a books show. And people are loving it. It's doing very well. It's Shucked the musical.
It's nostalgia and it's got music. People like that.
Including, and it's up for Best Musical and Best Book for librettist Robert Horn. Now, he won the Tony in 2019 for another musical comedy, this one about a cross-dressing actor. Name that.
Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey. Hello, my tootsie girl.
So it could have been Mrs. Doubtfire, but no, it was Tootsie from 2019, which was composed by our friend David Yazbek. So I hope you did okay on our Total Theater
Anybody
Tony
who played
quiz.
could beat me, so I hope you all did well.
Well, you got one or two. Well, you got one. You got that other one.
I had a lot of help
for
too,
a
and I
while.
didn't know anything. You assume I'm smart like you about this stuff, but I have no clue.
No, but this quiz isn't designed for.
It's for the elite, the elite of the Broadway and the theater world, and I'm not that human.
Well, I'm not going to be that human much anymore either.
Yes,
so.
you will. We can go to Baltimore. Remember, my friend said she'll give us a tour behind the scenes of a theater.
Yeah, that'd be. I'd love to. I really would love to. Okay, we have a little bit more show to do. In fact, we have, as promised, and it's not going to be that awful. I promise. The Broadway Limericks of the Darned, which are the equivalent of the Colorado Limericks of the Damned, but they're not as bad, intentionally. We'll get to them, but first. Let me do Friends of the Daverhood, which is a thing that we do every week, and I want to do it on this one. So first of all, I want to thank so much. Here, let me play the music. I should play some Broadway music for this, but I don't want to get, what is it? I don't want to get dinged by ASCAP and not have the show play. So, where's my Ain't Broadway Grand? Maybe I'll play that one. Oh, that one won't play. Let's try this one. Here we go.
It's the famous gay white way where the night is bright as day.
You know what?
Ain't Broadway grand.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
It's not just a thoroughfare, it's a tingle in the air. Ain't Broadway grand.
Cool song from a completely forgotten Broadway show that I enjoyed called Ain't Broadway Grand. But anyway, that leads us into our Friends of the Daverhood. And those are people who've appeared on the show. So first of all, thank you ever so much to Leslie Hoban Blake, to David Sheward, to Brian Scott Lipton, to Eva Heinemann, and to Ed Rubin, all of whom made their contributions to making this show so much fun. And also, of course, got to give a very big thank you to Daniel Wise. Remember that on this Tuesday evening, you can go to your local movie theater and watch it with beautiful sound, hear with beautiful sound, and watch Soul Doctor, the story of Shlomo Carlebach, and also his friendship with Nina Simone. Just if you go to Fathom Events on your computer, put in your city or your zip code, it will show you the places where Soul Doctor, the filmed musical, is playing, and you can see it. So please do that. And thank you so much to Daniel Wise for being in the Daverhood, and to the folks at the Keith Sherman office for setting that up. Brett, especially Brett at Keith Sherman. Anyway, those are folks who were on the show today. And Rabbi Sol Solomon, founder and spiritual leader of Temple Sons of Bitches in Great Neck, New York. Go to his website, shalomdammit.com. For his, if you haven't seen his show that he did off Broadway called Shalom Damn It, and Evening with Rabbi Sol Solomon, you can watch it. It was shot with 2 cameras. It really came out great. Our thanks to Evan Seplow for being the director and one of the camera people on that, who set that whole thing up. Thank you. Go to shalomdammit.com. Anyway, want to let you know, congratulations to Jorma Kaukonen. His Live at the Bottom Line album is being released on Omnivore Recordings. Now, it was a concert done in 2002, but now they're putting it out in album form. It's Jorma Kaukonen. You know him, of course, from Hot Tuna and Jefferson Airplane. Melissa Errico, going back to theater in a way, but it's interesting, the Irish Repertory Theater that I think Ed Rubin mentioned, they're doing a benefit, and it's a gala tribute to the music of Paul McCartney.
Oh, wow.
So Melissa Errico
Is he
and
Irish?
yeah, wouldn't he be? Or he'd be Scottish. Yeah.
I don't know.
He's Liverpudlian.
No, but I know that, but I don't know the origin of his.
And if you've ever stepped in a liver puddle, you know just how bloody and gross that can be. But Melissa Errico and the Kennedys, Pete and Laura Kennedy, are going to be at this tribute to McCartney, and it's at Town Hall. So even though it's for Irish rap, but is he of Irish extraction?
I don't. That's right. I'm going to look up.
Or maybe they're just, it's the Beatles. It's
Liverpool.
Yeah. His father, his mother, does it say what they were? Maybe when in 1990, Paul McCartney found out he was Jewish. It could happen.
It says he was born in Liverpool. His mom, Mary Patricia Nee Mohan, had qualified as a practical nurse. McCarthy and his brothers, they're baptized Catholic. Father was according to lowest rungs of the working class.
I guess they're English. I don't know why Irish Rep would select him instead of, say, Van Morrison.
Mom, I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, Peter Felicia is emceeing a tribute to Jerome Robbins at the Actors Temple. That is happening also on the 12th. So it's on Monday night. Monday night, it's an off night for theater, so a lot of things happen outside. For example, American Popular Song Society will be honoring 95-year-old Marilyn May. That is happening at Theater 555 over on West 55th Street. Also, on Monday evening, Nellie McKay is taking part in A Night of 1,000 Judies. That is a benefit for high-risk LGBT homeless youth. And it's being done at it's not. It's at Joe's Pub. It's Night of 1,000 Judies. That's happening this Monday night. And on Tuesday, at least something's happening on Tuesday, Jeff Harner and Alex Rybeck are doing their 40th anniversary show at 54 Below. If you can't get down there, they're also live streaming it. Jeff Harner. So either go see him or just have them come to you on your computer. Other lives, story songs of Michael Colby, our friend of the Daverhood, who was on the show in 2015, is a new album being put out by J Records, and it features Clea Blackhurst and Stu Zagnit. So we've got a three-bagger on there to Clea and Stu, and of course Michael. Yay. Who else? What else? Playing now through tomorrow, it's your chance to see TJ and Dave, the long-form improv artists. They are at Soho Playhouse. TJ Jagodowski and Dave Pasquesi. If you've never seen them, go see them. Also, playing now through the middle of June, Edward Einhorn wrote and directed a new play called The Shylock and the Shakespeareans. That's at the New Ohio Theater. Wow. Karen Finley, her much extended COVID vortex anxiety opera Kitty Kaleidoscope Disco.
Wow.
Is at the Laurie Beachman Theater.
That was the name what you were going to name this show, right?
Actually, if we ever had a kid,
yes,
that would have been my name for the child.
The next pet. What is it
Our
called?
next pet.
Kaleidoscope Disco.
It's COVID vortex anxiety opera Kitty Kaleidoscope Disco.
I think Kaleidoscope Disco would be a good name for a pet. You can call it
Clyde.
Clyde.
Yeah, Clyde. Okay, Clyde's actually a good name for a cat. I don't know, for a dog, or maybe a lizard. Clyde is a good name for a lizard. No, or maybe not. Steve Epstein, his piece, his solo, When Your Soulmate Dies, about his years with his wife Epstein, and when they play Epstein and Hassan. That's at the Alchemical Lab over on West 14th Street, playing now through late June. J.O. Sanders is off-Broadway in Primary Trust. It's a roundabout theater production at the Laura Pels Theater. And of course, on Broadway, Tova Felcher and Funny Girl, Dakin Matthews and Camelot, Lilius White in Hadestown. You can hear Alan Menken's music in Aladdin and also off-Broadway in Little Shop of Horrors. K.T. Sullivan moving to Cabaret. She is at the Algonquin on Tuesday nights. Seth Bisson-Hirsch does his talent showcase at Don't Tell Mama, also on Tuesday evenings. And on Sundays, you can see Marcus Goldhaber at room 623 in Harlem, up on 119th Street. Oh, and Saturdays, Eric Comstock and Barbara Fasano are at Birdland, while Vince Giordano and the Nighthawks are at Birdland on Monday nights. All tickets for that, birdlandjazz.com. and Jim Caruso's cast party every Monday night at Birdland. Finally, and last but not least, shout out to the wonderful Dr. Demento, who was on our 500th episode of the show, as well as also on one of our earlier shows. He's still doing new Dr. Demento shows at drdemento.com. Shout out to Evan Seplow, as I said before, and to Vicky Quaddy, who does her shows Are You Smarter Than Your 8th Grade Nun, Bible Bingo, and of course Late Night Catechism at the Greenhouse in Chicago. And those, my friends, are the friends of the Daverhood.
You can be a millionaire quicker here than anywhere. A Broadway grad.
You audition very well. You're in great form, you can tell. A Broadway grad.
It is, ladies and gentlemen, Broadway is grand, and it's grand doing our annual Broadway Theater Tony special here on Dave's Gone By. We just have one more item to get through, and get through it we will. You know, as I've been saying, every week we do a Colorado Limerick of the Damned, a dirty, a ribald, risque poem about Colorado, because Joyce and I lived there for many years. But this week, this being a special Tony show, I thought, hey, let's write a couple of poems about the various categories of the Tony Awards.
Let's do that.
So these are 4 limericks,
Okay.
and they take into account all the nominees, and they're more cute than dirty, unfortunately.
Okay.
But
I'll place them.
these are I gotta play the intro.
You're the poet.
A limerick is a comic verse of 5 lines, in which lines 1, 2, and 5 will end with words that rhyme. And likewise, verses 3 and 4 also end with words that rhyme. So this is a limerick.
Rocky Mountain.
Well, no, these are not about
That's
Colorado.
not appropriate.
Yeah, the other part was appropriate. So
This is appropriate for the theater.
the theater. So these are not Colorado limericks of the damned.
No.
These are merely Broadway limericks of the darned.
Aw, like a sock.
Yes, that was a wild and woolly joke. Which revival will get Tony's nod? Will it be the Groban Sweeney Todd? Or will they be swayed by Camelot or Parade? Or Woods, because Sondheim was God?
Let me do my, after each line, let me hit
All right,
them.
okay.
So
Here's the next one.
Because they're very tightly packed, okay.
For
Like your poops. Focus.
Oh, here we go.
Focus.
For old plays, you've got Piano Lesson. And Top Dog kept audiences guessing. A Doll's House seems strong, till Sidney Brustein came along. God damn, but those shows were depressing.
See, then it gives people time to unpack. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The best plays include Ham That's Fat and Tom Stoppard's Leopoldstadt. Cost of Living and Riverside cannot be denied. And there ain't no more titles than that. See, these are all plays on the, yeah.
I like it. You just got to go slow so people can process your writing because it's dense.
So finally,
Okay.
the best musicals are quite a septet. From New York, New York to and Juliet. Kimberly Akimbo has a spot. So does Some Like It Hot. And Shocked. Bet you're glad I didn't rhyme that one yet. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, our Broadway Limericks of the Darned. Waited nearly 3 hours for Tony. And now they're done. Thank you. Thank you, Joyce. Thank you for the accompaniment. Thank you for life accompaniment, too.
Yes.
And again, thank you to everybody who's been taking part in our Broadway special, our 18th.
Yeah, well,
Remember?
we got a lot of people.
Yeah, well, there are times we've had almost 20.
I know, but that's too much. You can't really, chat with people when it's like 20. It's just like a
Oh, we did. It just went on for 7 hours.
It's like a dating app.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true too.
We just swipe to our next guest. But this has been great fun. Thank you again to Daniel Wise, to David Sheward, to Leslie Hoban Blake, to Ed Rubin, to Brian Scott Lipton.
A lot of different views about really diverse views about what's going to win and not.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and that's Eva Heinemann, of course, too.
Yeah,
But yes,
Eva.
that's the joy of it. Everybody said, "Oh, Leopoldstadt, Leopold," and then Leslie's like,
And Ed was like,
Right,
No, Ed liked it.
Ed liked that. He like there was other things that he didn't like, or he found good things in Bad Cinderella. That's all, even among critics, there's a horse race and a difference of opinion. That's the beauty of it. And the beauty of doing this show, besides being here on Facebook every Saturday morning, doing Dave's Gone By, and the fact that we're only, one more show plus one away from our 900th episode. Remember, we also have our archives at archive.org. We have a channel there for Dave's Gone By episodes and our interviews. So you can either watch whole episodes or
search for a particular person if you're interested in hearing a particular segment. Yeah.
Hundreds of interviews over the years. They're all there. They're also at davesgoneby.com. The audio of our episodes you can also find at castbox.fm. So if you are a podcast person and you just want to download and hear audio, that's a great place to do that. And we have a YouTube channel as well, Dave's Gone By. Write to me, davesgoneby@aol.com. Check my Twitter feed, Radio Dave 2. Check our Instagram, which is Dave's Gone By, of course. And also, please, please, please check my other website, davelefkowitz.org, for all the stuff I've written, for my many, many journalism articles, interviews with celebrities, song lyrics, plays, screenplays. It's just this composite of a written life. And we keep adding more and more as we can. Dave Lefkowitz, LEFKOWITZ.org. So remember, tomorrow night is the Tonys, Sunday, June 11th. They're live at the United Palace Theater up on 175th Street in Washington Heights. If you can't afford the $700-something ticket, remember you can watch first at 6:30 in the evening. They're doing a 90-minute pre-show called Tony's Act 1, which everybody can watch if you just log on to Pluto TV. You don't have to pay a subscription fee. I'm sure they'll ask you to, but you don't have to. You can watch the Tonys for free on Pluto TV, and then turn to CBS TV if you have a regular television, or Paramount Plus if you want to pay for it. If you want to stream the Tonys live tomorrow from 8 until 11 p.m. Eastern Time. And that basically is that, ordinarily I give my own picks and my own predictions. So let me see. I think Leopoldstadt will win Best Play. I think Some Like It Hot probably has the edge for Best Musical, even though Kim and Leah Kimbo could take it. For Best Revival, this is interesting. That Best Revival is going to be unbelievably tight. But I think Into the Woods will take it, even though I wasn't a big fan. And Revival of a Play is maybe going to go to, I'm snookered by this one. Because I think they want to give it to Sidney Brustein's Window because it hasn't been done in 50 years. And it's sort of a less known quantity than Piano Lesson, A Doll's House, and Top Dog Underdog was so recent. It's also only a two-man show. I would say probably it's between Piano Lesson and Window. I don't know. I might go with Window, but it could be Piano Lesson. So much for making actual real predictions. Don't go by me, Gold Derby. And for Best Book of a Musical, let's see, probably, maybe Kimberly or Kimbo will take it by David Lindsay Bear. If not, that's also tight. A lot of these are really quite tight, albeit my not having seen them and being in the community to really, really weigh in. So shall I do one? Well, no, I think we're good.
Next year on Broadway.
Next year, Halavai. Next year. For Daniel Wise and Rabbi Sol, next year in Jerusalem. For me, next year on Broadway. And someday in Jerusalem, perhaps. Anyway, thank you all for watching. Thank you all for telling people about Dave's Gone By. Thank you to my wonderful and adorable wife, Joyce. Thank you, to David Tanney. Dave Tanney is the creator of a musical podcast called I Still Get Demented, ISGD. And this week, David Tanney told me that not one, but two of my songs, whose lyrics you can read at davelefkowitz.org. Well, he did, first early in the week, he told me that Mr. Poo Dangles, my recent masterpiece, I'm like a man who just can't finish going to the bathroom, is on their episode, the most recent episode of I Still Get Demented.
What's your other song?
Well, he was going to try and put on my very old MOTHER, my mother's song for Mother's Day.
Yes.
And it was a 30-second song. Couldn't fit it on the previous episode. But he squeezed it. He didn't have to. He squeezed it onto the latest episode as well. So you can hear 2 Dave Lefkowitz, Dave's Gone By songs on the I Still Get Demented, ISGD podcast by David Tanny, Tanny. So thank you ever so much to David Tanny. And he's been doing this. He's like, it takes off where Dr. Demento left off, at least Demento's also podcasting still. But, if you're not getting your fill of demented, strange, ridiculous music, check out I Still Get Demented by David Tanny, and thanking him really, really, very, very much again. And that, my friends, is the show for this Saturday, June 10th, 2023. We expect to be back next Saturday, June 17th, with the 899th episode of the show. I've got my fingers crossed. We're working on someone who could be, if we get this person, it's going to be pretty amazing. If you love avant-garde rock and roll, I don't want to say it. I don't want to jinx it. But most of you won't have heard of him. But those of you who are into out there avant-garde rock and roll will be like, whoa, if it happens. If it doesn't, I'll be here. Joyce will be here. Potato will be here. Thank you, Grand Kanish, for honoring us with your presence. Did he give you any presents? He didn't give me any presents. But Potato, did you enjoy the Tony show? Less theater, more ketchup.
Oh.
He has.
David, I sent you the thing about the ketchup, the Heinz thing. You can mix your own ketchup. You'll show him that later.
Okay, that's not for the Tony show. For the Tony show, it just remains for me to thank you one more time and to play our outro music. And since again we don't want to get into trouble in terms of copyright, it's George M. Cohan's "Give My Regards to Broadway."
Did you ever see 2 Yankees part upon a foreign shore? When the good ship's just about to start for old New York once more. With tear-dimmed eye, they say goodbye. They're friends without a doubt. When the man on the pier shouts, "Let them clear," as the ship strikes out. Give my regards to Broadway.
And gone by.